Good morning, everyone. It is, you are tuning in for the Board of County Commissioners agenda setting work session. It is Tuesday, January 11th, 9:04 a.m. We're in building 1, room 280. Today, I'm Carolina Mejia, Chair of the Board. Today, I am joined by Ty Menser, Vice Chair, who's joining us via Zoom. Commissioner Gary Edwards, who's to the left of me, and to the left of him is Ramiro Chavez, our County Manager. Here in the boardroom, we are joined by Clerk of the Board, Amy Davis, and our PIO, Megan Porter. There is a slew of staff that's joining us via Zoom. This meeting is being live streamed on the Thurston County YouTube channel. So with that, we'll start the agenda with our COVID-19 update, and I'll pass it to our Interim Director, Kurt Harden.
Good morning, Commissioners. Kurt Harden, the Interim Director of Public Health. I'm going to start off with saying today is day 706 of the pandemic since this started back in February of 2020. Total cases in Washington State have risen to 978,680. And unfortunately, Washington State deaths have risen up as well to 10,028. There are 31,397 cases in Thurston County since the pandemic began. But over the 14-day case rate per 100,000, that has risen up to 1,353 cases. We had a total of 276 deaths since the pandemic began. Last week, I need to correct a number. I reported last week that it was 252 deaths, and it was actually should have been 269. It was a different number, and that was my mistake. It wasn't a change in the number of people who passed away. So again, as of today, 276 deaths in Thurston County since the pandemic began. For our hospitalizations, total hospitalizations year to date is 1,608, but our current COVID patients are 116, with 2 suspected of being positive for COVID. The number we have on ventilators is 17, and in our ICU capacity, we have availability of 5 airborne infection isolation rooms and 2 non-airborne infection isolation rooms. And then in our acute bed capacity, there's 15 airborne infection isolation rooms and 39 non-airborne infection isolation rooms. And our activities, we continue the vaccination clinic at the Capitol Mall. That's running 7 days a week. And we also had started last week and working this week our mass testing site at the fairgrounds due to the increased demand for testing in Thurston County. Our congregate care outbreaks totaled since the start of the pandemic at 143, but we currently have 39 congregate care outbreaks that are under investigation. For our vaccination totals, we've had 471,435 vaccines administered within Thurston County to date. We have 66.8% of the total population that's initiated vaccination, and this is all within Thurston County. 60.9% of the total population is fully vaccinated. 79.3% of people over the age of 16 have initiated vaccination, and 72.3% of people over the age of 16 are fully vaccinated in Thurston County. And then 77.8% of people age 12 and older have initiated vaccination or vaccine. And then 70.9% of people over the age of 12 are fully vaccinated. And we continue to urge people to get the vaccine and visit our website for more information on vaccines and testing. And now I'd like to turn it over to Dr. Abdulmalik for her comments.
Good morning, Commissioners. We are seeing record-breaking COVID-19 transmission in our county. Interim Director Harden reported the 1,353.3 cases per 100,000 over the past 14 days in our county. This dwarfs our Delta peak at the end of August and beginning of September, where we peaked at about 523 cases per 100,000 over 14 days at that time. We at Public Health are continuing to operationalize the new guidance regarding quarantine and isolation developed by the CDC. However, we want to ask everybody in our community that if they feel sick and if they have symptoms, to stay home, and if they are able to get a COVID test, to do so. We anticipate supply of COVID-19 tests to be increasing in the coming days to week or so. I know that we and our partners at the State Department of Health are doing our best to facilitate access to tests on our end. I also would like to ask folks that work with at-risk populations, so people who are at higher risk of having severe illness from COVID-19, or folks that are working in congregate settings where once a cycle of transmission is established, it can affect many people very quickly, to be extra careful and to reach out to their employer regarding specific guidance on isolation and quarantine that's specific to their sector. If folks are working in situations that are high risk and don't have access to that information in terms of isolation and quarantine guidance, that's facilities or sector specific, feel free to reach out to us on our 2610 line, so 360-867-2610, and we will do our best, or our team will do our best to get back with you and let you know what the current guidance is in Washington State for isolation and quarantine. We continue to see, because the Omicron variant is more transmissible, we are seeing more outbreaks. We are seeing more workplace-related outbreaks, as well as outbreaks in long-term care and healthcare settings. We continue to work on managing those, as well as supporting our overall healthcare system, so that we support as we support our healthcare system in delivering the best care throughout the system that we can, with the rise in infections and hospitalizations. And the increased strain on the system that we're seeing. And with that, I'm open to any questions you may have. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. A. Questions? Commissioner Edwards?
Yes. At what point, those were pretty good numbers that Kurt gave us. At what point do we reach herd immunity?
So that's been a really tricky one. I know that there have been a number of estimates of percentage. Really, we will know when we reach herd immunity is if we get a positive case and the virus doesn't have another place to go. So somebody, for a variety of reasons, may contract the virus, but even though they may be infectious, they wouldn't be able to spread it significantly to others. In terms of what that percentage of protection is for COVID-19, we don't know that yet. I've seen numbers, anywhere from high 70% to 90+%. But this is one of those things that we'll know when we see it in action in our community.
So this kind of lines up with the wear a mask and stay home for 2 weeks, and we'll be over this, right? Pretty similar. I guess I do have a concern. The governor from New York said that half of their hospitalization numbers were individuals that had no symptoms but were tested when they came into the hospital, and they found out, oh, you've got COVID. They didn't even know they had COVID. They might have been there for a broken leg or a heart issue. So do we have about that same number going on here locally?
So I wanted to say one thing. First is at this point in time, yes, the data is changing in our COVID mitigation measures and what's necessary what's necessary to protect the health of the public is definitely changing. And I do remember that first initial guidance for 2 weeks for folks to spend 2 weeks at home. We now know that COVID will be with us for a while, and I agree that learning how that as we learn more about how to manage it, we'll continue to do better. In terms of so I actually asked that question of our healthcare providers at our meeting, in terms of Thurston County, and that's not what we're seeing locally. The vast, while every so often we'll get a case, someone doing pre-surgical or pre-procedure screening for COVID-19 will incidentally test positive. A lot of the folks that are in our hospitals, or the vast majority of folks who are in our hospitals, are folks with symptoms and illnesses related to COVID-19. So that's the report that we're getting from our healthcare providers in the community.
Any chance for the public's consumption, you could just give us a quick review today? What are the new quarantine guidelines?
Yes. So so for the general public, in terms of isolation. So isolation is when people who are sick stay home to prevent spreading the disease. As of right now, the CDC recommends at least 5 days of isolation at home. And if folks are asymptomatic, or their symptoms have almost resolved, and they've been fever-free for 24 hours without using fever-reducing medications, and they don't work in a high-risk setting for transmission, they may end at-home isolation, provided that they wear a mask when around other people for the following 5 days to complete a 10-day total isolation period. For folks that are in quarantine, and quarantine is for folks who were exposed to a COVID-19, to somebody with COVID-19 during their infectious period, and may become sick and are staying home to prevent spread before they have symptoms, to prevent spread in the instance that they may have been infected and could potentially spread the disease before they have symptoms. The quarantine guidance is to stay home as well for 5 days. Test on day 5, and if negative and asymptomatic, may end at home quarantine, provided that they mask around others for a full 10 days. For people who this is for folks that are not up to date on booster doses as they are available to them, and folks who are not up to date on their booster doses and are over 18, there isn't a quarantine requirement for folks 17 and under who are fully vaccinated. So folks who are fully vaccinated and boosted, or have had an mRNA vaccine within the last, completed a series within the last 6 months, or completed or received J&J within 2 months, there isn't a quarantine requirement. However, they should mask in public and maintain and check for symptoms for 10 days after that last exposure. Everyone who has symptoms, especially folks who have had close contact with someone with COVID-19, should stay home and get tested. And then if they test negative, should folks really shouldn't be folks should really be staying home until their symptoms resolve and they're fever free, even if what they have isn't COVID.
Thank you. And I believe our county, oh, okay. I thought you had a follow-up maybe to that. Commissioner Menser?
No questions. I've been completely immersed in this the last 2 weeks. No.
Okay, go ahead, County Manager.
I have a follow-up, Dr. A, on your description of the new guidance for quarantine. You stated that at the end of 5 days, they have to return a negative test and continue to wear masking for an additional 5 days if they're asymptomatic. When I reviewed the CDC guidelines, the testing was not required. Is that going to be a requirement by the State Department of Health after the 5 days when you're asymptomatic?
Thank you so much. So testing on day 5 in some settings is a requirement, so specifically high risk settings. In other settings, it's a strong recommendation, but not a requirement, as long as folks are asymptomatic.
Thank you.
Great. I kind of want to bring up the topic, Dr. A, of last week in terms of the boardroom and what your recommendation is for these kind of public hearings, and wondering if there was any update just with the transmissibility rate and just, seeing how the hospitals right now are getting bombarded with these Omicron cases.
So there are things that we know about the Omicron variant and COVID-19 at large, and that is that having large groups of folks in shared indoor spaces is a risk factor for spread, and masks are essential in preventing spread in indoor spaces. In my guidance for the county in general, and this includes all of our county residents, are to the extent possible to avoid crowded indoor spaces at large, and to always wear a mask. I'm happy I'm happy to answer specific questions for regarding safety of public meetings as they arise.
Well, I guess I'll lay it out to my other two seatmates with, I know the county manager wanted to approach this in a holistic manner and include all the county offices, but I think with, every office is taking their precautionary method and how, they want to proceed or not. And I feel, since we have the open boardroom, I feel just with how the other jurisdictions have approached this, I am at the place where I would like to close the boardroom and just leave the Zoom capabilities and maybe do the call-in capabilities again. But I'm not sure how my seatmates feel about it.
Are you waiting for a comment?
I have a comment.
Oh, okay. I think that we're going to have to learn to live with this. And those folks that have come down with the new virus, it's very minimal. I really do think it's unfortunate that the media puts out information that ends up being so misconstrued and so confusing to the public that we end up having a Supreme Court justice that is wholly uninformed, well-intended and wholly uninformed. So I think it's a big issue that we not overreact to this. And so it's my feeling that we should just continue to do business as normal. Do the masks work or not? There's debate on it. I think there's plenty of adequate space here. We can use the room down below. So I just have maybe a different point of view. I don't want to eliminate the public access any more than we absolutely have to. I want to return to normal as soon as possible. And I just don't think, it's a bad deal if you get this, especially if you get adversely affected or you die. But I just don't think the numbers are there. We're going to have to learn to live with this and see if we can't all recover and get on with life. Because we're 2 years into it. I don't want to see us being in the same situation in 3 years. So I'm all for trying to be as open as we can with the public. And I do have one other question, but I'll wait until we get this debate settled, ma'am.
The floor to Commissioner Menzer.
Okay, Commissioner Menzer, comments?
I don't have any more comments than I made last week. I guess I agree with you. The mask, I think we've seen after a year and a half that the masking, the public is not particularly diligent about how they wear their masks in the boardroom. If they were, then I'd feel differently. But with Omicron, it sounds like, from what I quoted from some articles last week, that difference of people wearing their masks diligently or not could make all the difference. I wasn't so sure about that with Delta, but it seems like with Omicron, that's enough to tip the balance. And I don't want to enforce masks. I don't think anybody in this room, virtual room or physical room, want to be mask police. I don't want to do that. So I think the alternative is just to have virtual meetings like every other jurisdiction in this county is doing except us. So, and the county manager raised the fact that, well, what about people coming in to do business? Well, for whatever reason, all the cities have their offices open through certain protocols, but they're doing virtual meetings for council. So I think we need to work out the details, but like I say, it was a conversation that I wanted to start, and I think it's a conversation we should have about what those details might look like.
Go ahead, Commissioner.
I guess just maybe as a follow-up on this topic, I think one of the big problems that we have as a society is we're kind of so inconsistent with our messages to the public. You can go into a restaurant and you have to have a mask on when your head is up at this high, but down at this high, you don't have to have a mask on. And we're sitting in, close proximity. Everything is getting back to normal. If you're in a threat category, I would assume you would not go to that restaurant. You'd make those decisions yourself. But we'll never know if somebody walking in here isn't infected, know they're infected, and trying to pass it on, I guess. We're gonna have to depend on the honesty and the caring of our society. I think that's the main thing here. So it's such a mixed message. How can we say, okay, it's okay to go to the restaurant in a room this size and have, 40 people in it, but it's not okay to receive public comment from citizens that are concerned about how their government is run. So I think we have to get back to some normalcy, and somehow, I'm not professing that I have the exact answers or not, but it's got to be one way or the other, not this forever mix that goes on.
Commissioner Menzer?
Well, I just think there's an easy answer to that. We're making compromises to try to keep our businesses open. If we don't allow people to take their masks off and eat, that business goes out of business. The county commission meetings can operate perfectly effectively through a virtual environment, and it's about the continuum of risk that I talked about last week. Keeping restaurants open is probably worth it because we need to support our local economy, our local businesses, and our sense of normality. Same with schools. But let's not add additional risk that we don't need to add. And does that mean there's going to be some slight inconsistencies? Yeah, we make compromises to try to balance a whole panoply of interests. And that means that, it's not going to be perfectly black and white because you're trying to balance a lot of conflicting interests.
Commissioner Edwards?
I guess I'd just point out on that inconsistency issue. Schools have been closed and they've been open, and then remote learning and then not. And But the private schools stayed open for the last 2 years. And they didn't have any problems. I mean, they had a case now and then, but it was a nothing in comparison to what is going on with our public school system. And I'll just use that as the example. I mean, we've got to get back to normal. We've got to get back to living. So I just want to say that. Thank you.
I'm kind of on the same page with Commissioner Menser where, you know, we have different methods for people, and I'll get you soon, Ramiro, after I talk. We have different methods for people. I mean, it's not like we're not having public comment. We're just closing the boardroom. People can still call in and do public comment. People can Zoom in and do public comment. You know, and it's worked for many other jurisdictions. We were open, you know, we were open, the boardroom was open, and all the other jurisdictions were still online, and they were gonna be switching up, but they decided against it. And I mean, it's where we're at, and I just wanna be cautious. And if that's what, you know, it takes, closing the boardroom, but still allowing people to, I mean, people still get in touch with us via email. They call each of our individual offices, they Zoom in. You know, there's different methods to get in touch with us. Go ahead, County Manager.
So what I'm hearing, the Commissioner Menser, Commissioner Mejia are in concurrence to close the boardroom for public access and go on a virtual environment. We have practiced that in the past. We have a method in place as to how we can do that. My recommendation at this point will be to implement that direction starting tomorrow. That will give us time to send a news release, as well as to put enough signs here in the boardroom. There will be, it will not be open to the public. And we'll conduct the afternoon meeting today on a normal basis as we have been in the past. So this is what I consider to be the direction by the majority of the board. And again, we do have the process in place. Give us today to implement that process, and we'll start that direction tomorrow morning.
Yes, Commissioner.
On another topic, could I just ask another quick question of the doctor? How accurate are these instant tests that we're using? And I mean, the 3-day stuff that we send out, isn't that almost useless nowadays because of the spread of this virus? And do we have enough tests? Where are we at in this process? I understand the president has said that we're soon to have adequate testing. Where are we at on that?
Yeah, so that's definitely a dynamic situation. In terms of accuracy with Omicron, I know the FDA continues to look at that. Each test is proprietary and different. So it's hard to make a blanket statement. We are seeing that the tests that we are using in the county are detecting COVID-19 at this point in time. In terms of what the sensitivity and specificity and all of those things, I think we'll need a little bit more data, to determine that, and if there is a decrease, what that decrease is when these tests are used as intended. However, they are an essential tool that we're using, and we are seeing in terms of when we're working with folks who are experiencing outbreaks or doing screening. We are seeing at the county level, at least our teams are seeing pretty good congruence between either a history of exposure or being symptomatic and a positive test thus far. No test is perfect, but we continued both to await kind of higher level data as well as using our own experience to helping facilities and county residents with COVID. In terms of access, So Washington State is set to receive more than 5 million tests in the coming week or so. Right now, the prioritization for Department of Health testing, so in terms of organizations and groups, is to support the testing in schools, as well as high-risk facilities. So facilities where there's a high risk of COVID-19 transmission, so congregate settings. So thinking about jails and corrections facilities, shelters, group homes, and things of that nature. We at Thurston County Public Health do have capacity to test. It is with the amount of transmission that's going on in our community. We, like all of our healthcare partners, are stretched thin. We're prioritizing at this point in time high risk settings. So settings where either the folks who get COVID are at high risk of severe illness. So supporting our long-term care facilities with tests, and in some cases testing support, as well as supporting our shelters and other groups. There is a portal being developed for folks to request their tests online directly from the state Department of Health. And I believe the Biden administration announced that 8 tests per individual per month. That's my current understanding. It's not finalized till it's final. Would be reimbursed by insurance starting, I believe, within the next week. I believe the date that was given was Saturday, but I will follow up on that specific date. So right now, our transmission rates, right now we have limited testing, but there are many steps in place to get more tests into the hands of individuals over the coming weeks.
Go ahead.
I forgot one additional comment on the previous item. I will bring on February 8th, during agenda setting, this item again related to opening the workroom, and that will be an opportunity for the board to evaluate where we are and see where we'd like to go. So on February 8th, I will bring this item again for your evaluation.
Chair, I have a question on the vaccine that's going to be sent out.
Yes, sir.
You raised another question, Doctor. You mentioned that it's going to be by reimbursement by your insurance, something like that. And my question is, there's a lot of people out there that don't have adequate insurance nor adequate financial ability to pay for these tests. So are citizens going to be denied the test if they don't have the money to pay for the test?
So do you want me to take that, Dr. Aid?
Yes.
Okay, so I think that's one tool that the federal government has announced that they're getting ready to implement, is for private insurance companies to pay for these test kits. But at the same time, there is no intent to deny or have people pay for those test kits if they are symptomatic. That's why the state is, in the State Department of Health, we're expecting in about a week, like Dr. Abdul-Malik mentioned, to have these test kits coming down to local health jurisdictions, local emergency management agencies, to be able to distribute those out to those that need it. There may be a distinction between those that need it to get tested and those that just want to get tested. And I can let Dr. Abdul-Malik discuss the nuances between those two, but the intent is to have people who need to get tested to be able to get tested.
Are we going to come up with something like an indigent form that we use in court when we assign attorneys or something? Is that kind of what's coming?
Commissioner, I don't know, and I've not heard of that yet, but I don't know at this point in time. The details are still being worked out. Again, we're expecting this to start coming in next week. But this is going to be similar to what we've done in the past with masks and distribution of masks over the last year and a half that have come down through local health jurisdictions and local emergency management agencies.
Okay.
I just wanted to add one more piece, that there are federal and state plans, and we also in Thurston County have our own, are definitely in the planning phase to ensure that there are tests available at community sites. So the federal government is planning on working on test availability at community sites, including rural health centers, to ensure access, especially for folks that don't have insurance to the tests. So there's a lot of planning work involved to ensure that, to make sure that cost isn't a barrier for folks to have access to testing regardless of insurance status.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. We still have a long agenda to go. Okay, number 2, homeless strategies. And I see Keely.
Good morning, Commissioners. Keely Marino with Public Health and Social Services. I will be here throughout the agenda setting as we have some presentations today for Board of Health. So I'll be brief on this update. Of course, going to start out as per usual with the rent assistance and where we're at. I do have CYS's numbers today, and of course, Community Youth Services is serving individual households between the ages of 18 and 24 that need help with their with rent. They've served completely 163 young adult households so far, with 259 other young adult households in progress. And they've spent $1.2 million in rent assistance at this time. Community Action Council serving the rest of Thurston County through rental assistance. Their rental assistance program has served 3,409 households so far in Thurston County, spending approximately $24 million in rent assistance and $1.1 million in utility assistance. And over half of those households served are households with children under the age of 18. Moving on from rent assistance, as you are aware, there have been a number of individuals that were housed in hotels throughout Thurston County following the December 8th sweep of the Deschutes encampment by the City of Olympia. Last week, the City of Olympia and our office, Thurston County, through Thurston County Office of Housing and Homeless Prevention, were able to extend those hotel stays until the 18th of December as we work on other strategies to prevent these individuals from being returned to homelessness. And there will be an update later on in the agenda setting meeting on that, a more thorough update. And then we're heading towards our 6-month check-in on the scattered site pilot project. So we are anticipating a pretty thorough data report from Olympia Mutual Aid Partners on their progress. And that should be ready by the end of the month. And I'd be glad to report on that and pass along the data report as it becomes available. And I'm happy to take any questions, but that's my report for today.
Thank you. Commissioner Edwards?
Just one, I think you maybe misspoke, but you said extend the 18th of December.
I'm sorry, January.
January?
Yeah, I haven't come fully into 2022 yet.
Okay, that's good. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Menser?
Oh, nothing. Thank you.
I do have a question in regards to rental assistance. Are there any updates on the audit?
Yes, I believe there are updates on the audit, and I see Tom Webster is online. He has more information on that than I do. So I invite you, Tom Webster, to answer that question.
Good morning, Commissioners. Tom Webster. Yes, so that audit is nearly complete. Brandon Weber has been conducting that audit. We had have had several meetings with Community Action Council on that. We have not issued the final report yet, so we don't have a final report, but Brandon is very close to issuing that final report. We met with CAC to go over some of the preliminary observations that Brandon had. And so I think in the next week or so, we'll be able to kind of report out fully on the results of that audit, but that is nearly complete.
Great, thank you so much. Okay, with that, let's move on to review the BoCC draft agenda for the meeting January 11th, 2022. So we'll start at 2 a.m., call the meeting to order. And we'll do the Pledge of Allegiance to be led by Commissioner Edwards, approval of the Tuesday, January 11th, 22 agenda, and approval of the board meeting minutes from January 4th, 2022. Then there will be an opportunity for the public to address the board. And then we'll have a county manager's update. And do we have any pending issues?
No, I don't have any follow-up issues. Some of the public testimony you have received as of late, those will be addressed on an executive session that is already scheduled for next Wednesday in the afternoon. So I will not be able to follow up on some of the comments you have received. But also I will take that opportunity this afternoon to give the public a heads up of the majority of the board decision to move into a virtual environment. And I will provide ways as to how the public can access, either by the YouTube channel, as well as how they can sign up if they'd like to provide public testimony during the regular board meeting.
Perfect, thank you so much. Okay, and then consent items A through F. So we'll start with item A, which is the authority of Director of Public Health and Social Services.
Yeah, thank you, Commissioner. This particular item is, we received so many different grants, particularly from the House and Urban Development Federal Department, as well as many other grants at the state level. And this is in response to the resignation of Shelley Slatter as a Public Health and Social Services Director. And Kurt and I are going to share this responsibility on an interim basis. So this particular action is for you to authorize the county manager, requires a legislative action so we can submit to HUD for me to act on the capacity in two areas, and the Housing and Homeless Prevention Division, as well as Environmental Health.
Great, thank you. Questions, Commissioner Edwards?
No, sir. No, ma'am.
Commissioner Mincer?
No, nothing.
Okay. Okay, item B, the abolishment of land use and permitting petty cash fund, and this is CPA department. Is Josh here, or will you be presenting this?
Thank you. You reviewed this item last week, Commissioners, and this is for you to consider abolishing a petty cash fund in the land use and permitting. This petty cash fund is $100. We no longer need it. This is for incidental expenses the staff may need. Last week, Commissioner Edwards asked the question, well, if the board takes an action on this, it will prevent from individuals making a cash transaction of the development center. No, it will not prevent that from happening. We will continue to do this. This is just an account, incidental account that we use, and we will no longer have utilized it.
Questions, Commissioner Edwards?
No, ma'am.
Commissioner Mincer?
No.
Okay, item C, Central Services, and this is resolution reclassifying positions 25RO0597 and 25RO1494.
Yeah, you also reviewed this item last week, and it was a robust conversation related to this proposal. For your consideration is two actions related to two reclassifications. One is to reclassify a procurement and contract specialist 1 to a procurement and contract specialist 2. And the second is to reclassify a procurement and contract specialist 1 to a program manager. Those two actions are related to start implementing a countywide procurement contract services. You had many questions last week with Jenny Silva was here to answer those questions. And this is really an attempt to provide services in a consistent way for those offices and departments that do not have a specific procurement and contract services within their own offices and departments. This particular action has a funding impact of the first reclassification goes from $6,325 to $7,687 per month. That would be just about a 22% increase. And the second is goes from $6,325 to $7,900 in just about 25% increase. This will be absorbed within the central services rates, and at this point, the department is not requesting any adjustments on their budget.
Thank you. Commissioner Munster, can you hear all right?
Yes?
Okay, I saw you leaning in and I wasn't sure. Okay, Commissioner Edwards, any questions?
No, ma'am.
Commissioner Munster, questions?
Nope, I think we covered it last week.
Okay, on to item D, Human Resources, and this is the resolution for court interpreter coordinator.
Yeah, thank you, ma'am. This particular item is a follow-up to the approval of the budget 2022-2023, which the board authorized the creation of a court interpreter coordinator. And since we don't have really a classification as such, so the district court and human resources have worked together to develop this classification. So this resolution is for you to consider to adopt the classification for the court interpreter coordinator position.
Okay, questions, Commissioner Edwards? Commissioner Munster? Okay,
Nope.
on to item E, Sheriff, from the Sheriff's Department. This is a resolution establishing operations lieutenant position 10RO1630.
Thank you. You also reviewed this item last week, Commissioners, and the Sheriff's Office has gone through the process to reassess how the new law enforcement law is really impacting the Sheriff's Office. And the proposal is to create an administrative arm within the Sheriff's Office to really start dealing with some of the administrative needs related to their operations, not just on the new law, but also enhancing their administrative delivery of service. So it is a two-step process on this. The first one is to take a sergeant position and reclassify it to an operations lieutenant position. That particular action includes an increase from $8,759 a month to $10,248 a month. That's just about 17%. The result of that, I believe the Sheriff's Office intends to promote within from a sergeant position. So whomever is promoted within the sergeant position, that sergeant position will be eliminated. And that is the intent of this action. Under Sheriff Brady is here to answer any questions.
Under Sheriff Brady, go ahead.
Hey, good morning, Commissioners. The county manager covered that very well, and I'd be happy to answer any questions if there are any.
Questions, Commissioner?
No, ma'am.
Okay. Questions, Commissioner Munster?
Nope.
Okay, great. We'll move on. Okay, and then the last item, item F, is the from the auditor's office, and it's for the approval of the voucher list. Any questions on that? No? Okay, perfect. So we'll move on to department items. We'll start with item 4A from the Commissioner's office, and this is a resolution to ratify proclamation of a local emergency. Ramiro?
So thank you, Commissioner. This is a new item, and I'm going to revise the action because it's not a resolution, it's a proclamation. So we'll update this this afternoon. The recommended action for you is to ratify the proclamation of local emergency issued by the Director of Emergency Management due to the extreme weather conditions under pursuant RCW 838.52.7070 and Thurston County Code 3.02030. In this particular, as you can imagine, we received heavy rains, a lot of road closures. There was a lot of impacts on county roads that have a few slides that we need to deal with. They will need to be expeditious as to how we need to address the impacts of the weather conditions. The RCW, the Thurston County Code, allows, in the absence of having a pre-scheduled meeting of the Board of County Commissioners, the Director of Emergency Services, in consultation with the county manager, will declare an emergency. Also, RCW and Thurston County Code dictates the next available session, the Board of County Commissioners will either ratify or decline this proclamation. So on January 6, 2022, the Emergency Services Director declared a proclamation, is included in your packet. And also included in your packet is a proclamation for you to confirm and ratify that action. And that is the intent of this, of this item. Any questions?
Questions, Commissioner Edwards?
Yes, the county manager mentioned this was kind of rough on our local infrastructure on roads and such, but I've been getting a lot of calls from the Rochester area about impact on citizens and their housing and flooding that took place in which they're going to have to dismantle part of their homes, to remove sheetrock and insulation and all that activity. Are we looking out for the citizens in this process of this declaration, and gonna kind of get on the stick about getting dumpsters out to where people can utilize these to fix up their places? Because otherwise, if we don't, it ends up along the county road, ends up in a much worse situation, at least in appearance. So I don't know if there's any financial assistance that goes along with people that were flooded out of their home or not. So just questions.
Yeah, so the first question, as we have implemented in previous flooding, particularly in Nisqually, we have brought some dumpsters for them to put any debris associated with flooding. We're going to have to go through an assessment. Individual property owners, hopefully they will have to contact their insurance company so they can determine what the extent of the damage is. And certainly when we have a comprehensive approach as to what the debris management will be, we have strategies behind as to how we can probably bring those, but we need to understand the specifics. Related to a financial aid from the county, we don't have any financial aid at this point that we have identified that we can provide to those citizens. What this emergency does is allows, if an emergency is declared at the state and perhaps national level, for FEMA to provide support to those citizens. And that has been what we have practiced in the past related to similar flood events.
Can I do a follow-up question to that? 1 second, Commissioner Messer, I'll get you. My questions are relating to the funds. I saw a post that said that Thurston Strong, along with the ECC, were releasing funds, they were doing grants for people. So is that not in correlation with this?
I am not sure because the Thurston Strong may have a different sources of revenue. They coordinate with the nonprofits, and also United Way has also put themselves available to provide support to those citizens impacted by the flooding.
Could we have some follow-up from our emergency service people as far as to the extent of the damage? I haven't went over and made a personal inspection on this, but from the calls I'm receiving, it sounds like it's pretty extensive in some areas. And I just wonder if we need to wait to get dumpsters out, for an example. Gosh, that could take, a period of time. I don't know how long, but I know the bureaucratic process doesn't go all that fast, even in the private sector with insurance and such.
On your agenda today, we have an item that will report on the weather conditions. Item number 1 on your agenda today.
And that's going to be on the past, not what's coming up, but I mean what we've dealt with.
But it's related to the recent weather.
Oh, okay, good. So we'll have some more information on the extensiveness of the damages.
I don't think our staff is going to be in the position to see what the extensive damage is, because we're evaluating what the damage is. I mean, we can probably have an indication, and the staff will report that there's some homes, even from the aerial photography, that were located in islands,
Sure.
And I think that some of the citizens have already raised their homes, and we, particularly the county, has also helped some citizens raise their homes. But it will be extremely difficult for staff today to give you a perspective as to the extent of the damage, because we have not gotten to that point yet. We need to have a coordination with the citizens to determine how their insurance companies will work on that to determine what the actual number in dollars and cents to determine the extent of the damage.
Has the Red Cross been brought into this discussion as well?
And we report this. Also, Red Cross has been involved in this as well as United Way
Yeah.
and other nonprofits.
And for those citizens that are in a bad situation today, is there a phone number or something that we could give out that's maybe a coordinating number to give them some direction on who they may call or follow up? Anything we can give them?
Well, I don't have that number in my mind. So we will address that on the next item.
Okay,
Thank
you. Okay.
Commissioner Menzer? Questions?
No.
Okay, and then I did look it up, and United Way is accepting donations right now for anyone who was affected due to the flooding. So if anyone's interested in donating, I would encourage you to visit the United Way of Thurston County website. Okay, on to the next item, Commissioner item B. And this is a set of public hearing regarding operations of the Black Lake Special District.
Yeah, thank you, Commissioner. This has been an item that have been discussed. My recommendation at this point is for you to hold off and taking this action. I have a follow-up with many conversations with the Deputy Prosecuting Attorney. And after further review of the petition, there is significant procedural and substantive concerns that we need to take time to look from the legal point of view, whether this is something the board should exercise or entertain a public hearing. So at this point, I am not prepared to give you, for you to consider setting the public hearing. I recommend for you to hold off. I don't know until what time. There is a lot of issues that we need to address. Now that we have looked into in more detail. So that is my recommendation at this point.
Commissioner Arnold's question.
I guess this is contrary to the information that we discussed last week. And so my concern was the legality of the requirement that we do this. And I thought it was pretty clear last week that we're required to do this. So you're saying there's a new point of view on this, or has the law changed? Or?
So it's two steps. I was narrowly focusing on this RCW 8538-220 that based on that petition, you can hold a public hearing. But the petition itself includes dissolving the district. That is the underlying petition for you to consider dissolve the special use district of Black Lake. And that is the main concern the attorneys have at this point. So you're right. I mean, the concerns about the requirements is really what has put us in this position for you to hold off.
I guess I was drawing on my memory bank that's a bit limited. I believe I had this same discussion when the board voted on this issue some time back on the bond that we might be responsible for. Is that what you're referring to?
No, that's a different issue.
Oh, okay.
That's a different issue. The petition itself is for the board to consider dissolving the special use district. That's the concern.
Okay, I guess more to come.
The financial obligation that related to the bond, that's a separate issue. It will be consequential to whatever actions the board will take. But the prosecuting attorney has serious concerns about whether this is something the board should pursue.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Commissioner Menzer?
Whether we should pursue, meaning we have, I mean, I thought, as Commissioner Edwards pointed out, it was previously framed that we had no choice but that if certain requirements were met, we had to have a public hearing. So now now you're saying there's a feeling that there's discretion of the board in terms of that?
Yeah, when I talked to this week in preparation to this item, Elizabeth raised some serious procedural and substantive concerns holding the public hearing is just an action, but they're really addressing the underlying petition that she has concerns.
Like whether the petition meets the statute or whether a proper petition should result in us setting the public hearing on this issue.
Whether the petition will be within the purview of the Board of County Commissioners.
Okay, well, I'd like to know more about that because.
Oh, no, absolutely. And that's the reason why I'm asking for you to hold off and setting the public hearing. I'm not saying that this is a done deal. No.
And then you'll communicate with I know there's been email traffic that I've seen here just in the last week about the details of all of this between the citizens that petitioned.
Yeah, I'll inform my contact person as soon as at noon today.
Okay, so I guess more is to come, and we're gonna have a meeting with Elizabeth to discuss this.
Most likely will be in an executive session.
Okay, my question is in regards to that February 15th date. So will that date completely change?
I'm sorry, I'm not following the
The
question.
February 15th date, that will, whenever we have our executive session, it won't be for February 15th.
No,
Again,
no.
it will be for another
Yeah,
date.
whenever is appropriate. So it was just the February 15 was a date for you to consider setting the public hearing, but there's nothing magic about February 15th,
Okay.
if I may.
Commissioner Metzer?
Just one more comment. I mean, I want to encourage county manager and prosecuting attorney to address this in short order because this petition was filed some time ago and it took us some time. I mean, it was already like a question, like is having this 3 months down the road, reasonable amount of time. And now to have a wrinkle come up at the 11th hour after we already kind of pushed it a couple 3 months, I don't remember exactly how long, I think is the optics of that are not going to be good and it might raise suspicion, probably unjustified, but I don't want the public to feel like that we're trying to, kick the can or hide something because that's not the intent. I mean, obviously the commissioners are just hearing about this problem today and I fully expected a hearing was going to go forward next month. And if there's a issue that is going to stop it or need to be worked through, then that should be done sooner and not later.
I totally agree, Commissioner. As soon as Elizabeth is back from some time off this week, we'll make sure that this is a high priority for the board to hear next steps.
Okay, so I guess we're striking this matter off the agenda for today with an executive session to be scheduled once Elizabeth returns.
Yep.
Okay. Department item number 5, Public Health and Social Services, and this is in regards to hotel leasing and rapid rehousing contract amendment with Washington State Department of Commerce.
Yeah, thank you, Commissioner. You reviewed the items 5A and 5B are related. And this is related to House Bill 1277. It passed on the last legislative session 2021. They were created $100 additional document recording fees. So the Department of Commerce has released a portion of that revenue and has issued somewhat of a grant to the counties specifically to address rapid rehousing and hotel leases. So item 5A is for you to consider approving an agreement between the county and the Department of Commerce to receive the $1,633,041 for rapid rehousing. And 5B is for you to consider to execute contracts with specific outfits to receive that money so they can exercise that particular mandate. I briefly walk you through what the contracts are on item 5B last week. Community Action Council will receive $100,000. Family Support Center, Southside, $400,000 for hotel leasing. Love abounds here, $50,000 for hotel leasing. Olympia Mutual Aid Partners, $616,189 for hotel leasing, and Pierce County AIDS Foundation, $138,000 for rapid rehousing, and Safe Place, $290,000 for rapid rehousing as well as hotel leasing. And Tom Webster is here to answer any questions related to item 5A and 5B.
Okay, 5A and 5B are together. Okay, Commissioner Edwards?
Yes, the 1,600,000, is that what our citizens through transactions on that $100 fee have put into this fund over what period of time?
So this fund began collecting revenue, my understanding is on July 1st, or perhaps a little bit earlier, depending on when the legislation took effect. So Commerce initially released this money in anticipation. So I don't know if that 1.6 has been fully collected from county citizens yet to date, but it was based on an anticipation of the county share of this funds that county citizens will be contributing throughout the course of the year. So whether that's funds been technically collected or not, but it is based on the county's historical expectation of how much the state will collect from county citizens.
So I'm just trying to get the flow of the cash straight. So when we collect $100 from a citizen for a filing fee, we send that $100 to the state and then they send it back to us, providing we make application? Is that how this is working?
Essentially, yes. So this is money that versus the other document recording fee where we control. This is a document recording fee that is goes to the state, and then the state issues that back to counties and jurisdictions for spending.
Okay. Is this earmarked money that comes with all kinds of strings on it, or could it be different applications, maybe yet to be determined?
So this specific money had very specific strings or limitations. It was specifically for hotel leasing and rapid rehousing. Those were the only two eligible activities that we were allowed to spend these funds on. In the future, additional 1277 money, we anticipate a broader range of eligible activities, but there will still be defined eligible categories that we can spend this money on, specifically around rent assistance and homeless services.
Okay, thank you.
Great. Commissioner Menser?
Nope, good.
Okay. So that's item A, 5A and 5B, and so now we're on item 5C, which is Department of Children, Youth and Families Amendment 1 to Interlocal Agreement Amendment 221173.
Yeah, thank you, Commissioners. You reviewed this item also last week. For your consideration is to amend the current contract that we have with the Washington State Department of Children, Youth and Families to receive an additional $272,804 and to extend the agreement that we had with them until July 31st, 2002. So the total value of this contract will be $1,210,406. And they will allow us that way to continue to provide Nurse Family Partnership Program to 60 families in Mason County, 51 families in Thurston County, and 51 families in Lewis County. A total of 162 families that we're currently serving under this program. Gretchen Thaler, the program manager, is here to answer any questions.
Questions, Commissioner Roberts?
No, ma'am.
Commissioner Menser?
No.
Okay, thank you, Gretchen.
Thank you very much.
Okay, so item 5D, Washington State Department of Health 2022-2024 Consolidated Contract CLH 31030.
Thank you. You also reviewed this item last week, and this is the very large contract, what we call is the CONCON, the consolidated contract within the public health. The State Department of Health issues the contract to local jurisdictions. It includes a lot of funding sources. There includes a lot of activities they need to do within. And so there's two-step process in here. The state requires for the legislative authority to approve a contract, and this is the request for you today. The current contract expired on December 31st, 2021. So the next contract will begin January 1st, 2022, and will take us all the way to December 31st, 2024. So that's the first step. As soon as the legislative authority approves this contract, then the next step is to work on a statement of work and as well as defining how much money is coming to the county. That's where we are. Kurt, would you like to elaborate on this?
Kurt Harden, Interim Director of Public Health. No, that was a great summary, and I have nothing further to add at this point.
Thank you. Commissioner Edwards, questions?
Yes, you said it was a large contract. Is it all about money coming in and not about money going out?
Yes.
Go ahead.
Okay, so yes, Commissioner, it's the money that's coming into the county Department of Health from the state, and it's federal and also state funds that come in, but it's also agreement for services that public health will provide inside of Thurston County.
And can you give the citizenry just a rough amount of how much money we're contemplating or the possibility that we might get? Just very rough, just so people have an idea what we're doing up here.
Sure. At this point in time, it's fairly significant. I will give you that it's more, they're still developing the dollar amounts. And I'm going to say that before I don't want to speculate, because the moment you speculate and then the dollar amount changes, then somebody wants to know why the dollar amount changes. The state is still developing the scope of work and the dollar amounts itself.
How about would we be safe to say we're talking about multiple millions of dollars?
Yes, multiple million of dollars. Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
There's millions of dollars that are coming in.
Very much worth paying attention to.
Very much worth it. So at this point, you're not authorizing a blanket dollar amount. We'll have to come back with an amendment to the contract that specifically addresses the dollar amount and the activities they would need to perform.
Okay.
So that's the first step.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Menzer?
No, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Kurt. Okay, so now to item 5E, the treatment sales tax community grant request for proposals.
Yeah, for your consideration, commissioners, is for you to authorize a request for proposals to receive applications related to the treatment sales tax community grants. And this is aligned with the decisions the board made related to and included in the 2022-2023 biennial budget. And this is going through the process. As soon as we receive the applications as a result of the request for proposals, the treatment sales tax advisory committee will review those applications, and the result of that will be to send the board back some recommendations for you to award those grants. So again, this is the first step and maybe in a couple step process. Carrie?
Carrie Hennon, Treatment Sales Tax Program Manager, Public Health and Social Services. Great summary. Yes, so this is just beginning that process to invite applications, and the board would hear a recommendation sometime in February about what grants the committee recommends being awarded.
Carrie, questions? Commissioner Edwards?
No, ma'am.
Commissioner Menzer?
Nope.
Carrie, I do have one question. What's the total amount that we have available?
So this RFP would put out $400,000 per year for 2022 and 2023. So $800,000 for the biennium.
400 for 2022 and 2023. Great, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, and then we go to our sending items. County managers, commissioners will report on board work session and assigned committee meetings, providing updates on actions taken as well as upcoming issues. Item B, the county manager will review the Board of County Commissioners schedule for the week of January 11th, 2022. And then item C, we'll adjourn. At 3:30, we'll have our Board of Health meeting with a separate agenda and meeting. So that's the agenda for January 11th, 2022. It is 10:19. Do we want to take a break now, or do we want to review the Board of Health and then take a break?
I'm at your pleasure, man.
Probably could go through Board of Health pretty quickly and then. break.
Okay, so let's go ahead and go through the Board of Health. Commissioner
Okay.
Menser, I'll hand it off to you.
Thank you. Yes, we'll call the Board of Health to order at 3:30 or as shortly thereafter as possible following the commissioners' meeting. We will have approval of the agenda and meeting minutes from December 14th. We will have a proclamation for Blood Donor Month. And Kurt, anything we need to say about that at this juncture?
The only thing I would add is Jenny McCoy from Bloodworks Northwest has been invited to attend, and we anticipate she'll have a few comments to make before the proclamation is read.
Great. Any questions from the board members?
No, sir.
Okay. Opportunity for the public to address the Board of Health, and then Department Item 1 under 4. 4 is 2022 election of officers for the Board of Health. Ramiro, you're listed as the person on this.
Commissioner, I will walk you through. This is just an affirmation of the decision the Board of County Commissioners made last week. As a Board of Health, you need to affirm that decision, in which Commissioner Menser will be the chair for 2022, Commissioner Edwards will be the vice chair, and Commissioner Mejia will be part of the Board of Health.
Okay, I assume there's no questions on that.
No, sir.
Department Item 5, Administrative Officer of the Board of Health.
Yes, Commissioners, maybe a couple of years ago, I think 2 years ago, where the Board of Health took an action to appoint Shelley Slatter as the Administrative Officer for the Thurston County Board of Health. This particular action is for you to consider revoke that appointment of Shelley as the Administrative Officer as a result of her departure from county employment, and appoint the interim Public Health Social Services Director. And also, it is very important at this point to read the second part of this action, which is, as the Administrative Officer, the interim Director of Public Health and Social Services shall administer the operations of the Board of Health except for duties assigned to the Health Officer. And that is important to highlight as part of this action. When the board assigned Shelley Slatter, I think as the Administrative Officer for the Board of Health, it should have been based on that position, not necessarily an individual. So this action tries to clarify that as well.
Commissioner Mejia, questions?
No, sir.
Commissioner Edwards?
No, sir.
Okay. Then item 6 is an amendment 4 to the Lewis County contract for purchase of Nurse Family Partnership Health Services. Gretchen Toller's here.
Sorry, I was muted. Hi, Gretchen Toller, Division Director, Thurston County Public Health and Social Services. And I am seeking approval for the Lewis County contract to deliver Nurse Family Partnership Services to 50 families in Lewis County. And this is for $309,822.25. And it funds 2 full-time nurses.
Commissioner Mejia?
No questions.
Commissioner Edwards?
No questions, sir.
Okay, thank you, Gretchen. Straightforward.
Thank
Item 7 is the 2022 Thurston County point-in-time annual homeless census. And Keely is here.
Yes. Today, Ariel Benson, who is the coordinator of our 2022 point-in-time count census, will be providing you with an update on how we're moving forward with the PIT, some guidance that we're waiting for still from HUD, and how we intend to move forward, especially considering Omicron and that sort of thing. So she has a presentation for you, and that will be presented at the appointed time.
Okay, Commissioner Mejia, questions for Keely?
No, sir.
Commissioner Edwards?
I have one question. I see the county manager has a follow-up, I think, to that. Has the point in time been conducted or it's coming up?
It is coming up.
Okay.
It is currently scheduled for the 28th of January. However, there may be direction from HUD and from Department of Commerce to postpone it. due to Omicron. So, but if not, then it will be conducted on the 28th of January.
Okay, thank you.
County manager.
No, that was exactly what I was gonna ask, Keely. I think, I've heard that perhaps it's gonna be delayed, related to the current variant, so I think you addressed that. Thank you.
Yes.
Okay, hang on there, Keely, because item 8, is that the right number? Yeah, item 8 is the hazardous weather response report.
Yes, so I put together a PowerPoint presentation just walking us through how the hazardous weather event happened and played out in the end of December, beginning of January. And then we'll talk a little bit about how that compares with other events that we've been able to conduct. And
Questions
declare.
for Keely on this item?
No, sir.
No, sir.
Okay. Then we'll have Board of Health members, health-related activities and accomplishments, health officer report, and then Kurt will conclude as our interim director with a director's report. Assuming there's nothing to add there, then we would adjourn and pass it back to Madam Chair.
Great. Okay, so we'll go ahead and take a 10-minute break. We'll be back at 10:35, and we will pick up with the BoCC draft agenda for January 18th. Thank you. Good night, Commissioner. Okay, and we are back. And you are tuning in for the agenda setting work session. We are on item 5, the review of the BoCC draft agenda for the meeting of January 18th, 2022. So we'll start with that. Okay, so Tuesday, January 18th, 2022, we'll call the meeting to order at 2 p.m. And the Pledge of Allegiance to be led by Vice Chair Menser. Approval of the Tuesday, January 18th, 2022 agenda, and then the approval of board meeting minutes from January 11th, 2022. We'll have 2 presentations that day. One will be a proclamation for Martin Luther King Jr. Day.
Yeah, thank you, Commissioner, for your consideration. We'll have a proclamation for Martin Luther King Day, which is January 17, 2022, for your consideration.
Great. Questions? Comments? Are we having any special guests?
And we'll try to find a, yeah, we'll.
Got a Zoom, have Zoom
Well, it has to be
guests?
Zoom.
Zoom guests? It's hard. Okay. And then we're gonna do introduction of new public works employees.
Yeah, that we have for your Public Works will bring 6 new Public Works employees for you to welcome them. I will ask if Public Works is listening to this to be very brief on these introductions. We have 6. So.
Perfect. Okay. And so then it will be the opportunity for the public to address the board and then county manager's update.
I will follow up if there's any items to
Okay, and then consent items, there's only 2. One will be public health and social services, and it will be abolishment of public health and social services revolving fund account.
Yeah, thank you for your consideration, Commissioners, for you to consider abolish a revolving fund. It was formerly used in the environmental health septic rebate program. It's not like the rebate program has lapsed. With the rebate program now, we're using what we call as the accounts payable, a more direct process. So we no longer need this particular fund.
Okay, questions, Commissioner Edwards?
Yes, are we still making loans to citizens to make corrections and somehow we can do it without this fund? Is that it?
Yeah, because now it's a direct, what we call as a accounts payable, a more direct appropriation.
Okay, thank you.
Kurt, you'd like to elaborate on that?
Nope, that's a perfect summation.
Commissioner Menser?
Nope, okay.
Okay, thank you, Kurt. Okay, and item B, which is the approval of the voucher list. Any questions on that?
No, ma'am.
Okay, perfect. So we're going to go to department items, and first item is 4A from the auditor's office, and it's established Thurston County Accessible Community Advisory Committee.
Yeah, thank you, Commissioners, for your consideration. This is a follow-up to the briefing the county auditor had maybe mid-December. I can't remember the actual date, in which the county auditor gave a presentation as to how the current work group that she has, the Voting Accessible Advisory Committee, can be turned into Accessible Community Advisory Committee, the ACAC. It's a simple action, the board to consider, and it's really is to authorize the chair of the Board of County Commissioners to sign that letter, and that establishing the Thurston County Accessible Communities Advisory Committee. And I believe the county auditor will be present next week to further elaborate this particular action.
Questions, Commissioner Edwards?
No questions, ma'am.
Questions, Commissioner Menser?
Nope.
Okay, we're good on that. Item 5A, it is an ordinance to create a countywide home fund.
Yeah, thank you, Commissioners. And this is a follow-up to a couple of things. On November 23rd, you held a public hearing related to the intent of the county to implement a home fund. This home fund is 1/10 of 1% for countywide for housing and related services and authorized by RCW 82.14.530. In the result of the public hearing, Commissioner Mejia made a recommendation, motion to direct the county manager to draft an ordinance that for you to consider. I presented a draft ordinance on December 3rd to the board, and at that time, the ordinance that I drafted did not include a legal review. And on December 3rd, I asked the question whether the board is interested in implementing this particular action councilmatic or going to the board through the voters on a ballot measure. Commissioner Mejia and Commissioner Menser agreed and voted on directing me to go with a councilmatic action, and Commissioner Edwards preferred to go with a ballot measure in front of the public. So I have been working on this particular ordinance, and also it created, I participated in a joint meeting with the city mayors on December 17th, where Commissioner Menser attended that meeting. And it was intended to have a conversation related to this particular home fund. And that was also stated on December 3rd that this meeting will occur. The result of that meeting, I believe it was very fruitful, and Commissioner Menser can elaborate on that. And the result of the meeting is reflected on this ordinance. You have a copy before you. It outlines what I believe we agreed at that meeting, and also very prescriptive as to how the board may consider implementing this 0.1%. This ordinance has already been reviewed by the prosecuting attorney, and this is the version that I have for you. Also, as I stated, my mission, my own deadline was to bring this matter before you for the board to consider on the January 18, 2022 board meeting. And that's what I'm doing. Whether the board like to continue this conversation or not, that is really within your purview. And this is the ordinance that I have drafted for you. And again, this has the review of the prosecuting attorneys. Yesterday, I shared this ordinance with the city managers, just to make sure that they will check, because they participated on the December 17th meeting. I received one question from Tom Water, which I addressed yesterday. And I received an email from Scott Spence this morning that I need to review related to some comments related to this ordinance. So they have already provided a perspective, I believe, based on nothing substantive. They changes the overall umbrella and context of this ordinance. So I'll stop there.
Questions, Commissioner Edwards?
Yes. It's my understanding there's no sunset provision in this ordinance. So let's just say over the next 10 years, we're going to impose a $50 million plus tax burden on citizens. And I might mention it's the most regressive tax that you can have is the sales tax to do something. And it hurts those of minimal income the most. And I just think that although we had a lot of activist testimony that was very supportive of the county commission doing this through the councilmatic process, I believe if we truly want to develop trust with our community, that we should let the public vote on this issue. If it's such a sure thing and so overwhelmingly supported, let's see if that is true. And it very well may be true. I don't know the answer to that. But over the next 10 years, for an example, and $50 million that we're going to raise, if we let the public vote on this, we might delay it for a couple of months. I'm not sure that we'll delay it at all if we could put it on a ballot coming up, I don't know, February or March. So I'll comment more as we get closer to the implementation on this, but I just think it is very important to allow the public to have a say in such a monumental undertaking. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Menser?
I would just like to report on the meeting we had on the 17th that Ramiro made reference to. It was, I didn't realize this was coming, up, or I might have reported last Thursday at the commissioner's check-in, but the meeting was very productive in the sense that the county managers and executive and the mayors were there, and we hashed through a number of details so that everybody felt really comfortable. I felt like leaving the meeting with hammering out decision-making. We were both trying to make sure, we were trying to do two things. One was best align this program with the City of Olympia's program so that the decision-making is sort of consolidated and projects of the maximum impact can be used, and the monies can be used in an aligned fashion. And then building in decision-making for the other jurisdictions that would be affected, so that they have, comfort level with it, that they would have their voice heard and seat at the table, et cetera. And the commissioners would not tinker with recommendations beyond a certain sort of threshold. So I haven't had a chance to review the county manager's draft, which I will do, shortly. I do want to make sure that the cities have a chance to look at it and make sure it reflects what I felt and they felt was our understanding on the 17th of December. If there's any hesitation there, I would not feel like we have to push forward on this next week. But I think we should feel confident that we had a really good, productive, collaborative session with the cities, and assuming the county manager got the details right, or we will get there, then we'll be in a good position, I think, having full support of our jurisdictional partners on this.
Related to that, Commissioner, if I may, sorry.
Go ahead.
The City of Olympia will be considering this afternoon a resolution of intent to bring their own home fund dollars to have more of a regional approach. I think that's what you stated, Commissioner Menser. So they will take a formal action, the City Council, I believe, this evening to the intent to bring, if the board passes this, approves this, to have more regional conversation. So this particular legislative action proposal excludes the City of Olympia because they already have their own home fund, and that's the reason why the City of Olympia Council will be considering a resolution of intent to bring those dollars into the regional process. Also, this ordinance predicates on the premise of the Regional Housing Council will have an active role related to this particular funding source and how can be implemented and delivered. Please read it. I believe I capture all the conversations that happened on December 17th, as well as the desire of the board, at least on the December 3rd conversation that I took notes with. And I'm just looking at the Scott Spence comments. I need to look in more detail. Is more of editorial comments more than substantive comments that I can see. So, and again, I have not received comments from Olympia, and the only comment that I received from Tom Water yesterday from John Don was whether the board would like to have a specific percentage for the administrative fee. My recommendation at that was just to leave it out because the board may not want to get in too much into the administrative cost, since the Regional Housing Council will be providing recommendations to the board.
I have one question. Has legal reviewed this?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So I'll review this as well. Okay, so we'll move on to the next item if there are no more questions or comments.
So the question is, you'd like to leave this item for next week? Obviously, you can take that off next week at any time. Just want to make sure that that is being asked.
Well, I reserve the prerogative to want to delay it if I don't feel like we've gotten,
Fair enough.
we get any additional comments, but I mean, I don't have a problem leaving it for now.
For now, I'm okay as well.
But I guess my perspective doesn't count for doing the democratic process. And I believe it should be taken off and that we should allow the public to have a say in sex eval.
I just want to make sure your comments are.
Well, you knew I would be consistent, sir.
No, that's right.
Yes, okay.
Okay, so now we're going on to the next item, which is item 5B, amendment to the interlocal agreement for the Thurston Climate Mitigation Plan.
Yeah, for your consideration, Commissioners, is for you to approve an amendment number 3 of the interlocal agreement between Thurston County, City of Lacey, City of Olympia, City of Tumwater, and Thurston Regional Thurston Regional Planning Council to implement what we call is a phase 4 of the Thurston Climate Mitigation Plan. There is a cost associated with that. Each jurisdiction will participate with 60, friction.
Yeah, that's a total, isn't it?
Yes, each jurisdiction will participate with $60,662. So, and this is
That's our share?
The share of Thurston County. All the other jurisdictions will participate evenly on this. There is funding related to this. The board approved in the 2022-2023 budget, biennial budget. And you discussed this during your budget deliberations. This is just the administrative legislative action for you to authorize this amendment and authorize the county manager to go ahead and sign that. The purpose and goals of this agreement is to maintain the momentum for a local climate action, to develop efficient regional solutions to reducing sources of greenhouse gases and waste that support all partner jurisdictions, to provide accountability and on process towards achieving regional climate targets, to build public awareness and engagement on the climate mitigation activities across the region. Commissioner Messi sits on the climate mitigation action team, I believe, and he can provide additional perspective on this particular item.
I would just add that I think I previewed this for you guys a couple of months ago, but the kind of minimum amount was $55,000 to kind of keep the pieces, the ongoing pieces going. And then there was proposals to add elements to the work program that would have bumped it up to like $98,000 per jurisdiction. And there was robust debate and compromise, and we dialed all of that back, and it landed at 60, which is just a little bit above the minimum, where we added one element to the work program, and then we got TRPC to add another piece with like basically under their existing standing items, and then another one's going to be separate. So we were able to manage the costs that all the jurisdictions wanted to keep the costs as low as we could. And so 60 is kind of where we're at. And I think we've got, as Ramiro said, we've got the funding allocated through our carry forward that we did in this budget. So hopefully that'll get us well through 2022. And this will start, oh, by the way, so yeah, it starts like we're anticipating it'll start in April, because the last phase 3 that we've already funded was for 1 year based on the signing by everybody signing the phase 3 agreement, which was like end of March. So the anticipation is this phase 4 will begin April 2022 and then carry forward for a year on a year-by-year basis. We'll reevaluate the work plan, et cetera.
Go ahead, sir.
I guess my concern, I've supported this all the way along, but I was under the impression that there would be something accomplished in the environmental summit that our current administration was involved in for the around the world activity, because this is a total climate benefit. We will never have a benefit to our citizens in Thurston County or in Washington without cooperation around the world. And I just would like to point out that I'm very concerned that a new coal-fired plant is put online every day in China, Russia, Pakistan, and India. And even though we're trying to do our best to limit our carbon footprint, it has minimal to no effect in the worldwide situation. And so I'm not sure that I can go along with this and continue to bleed the American public when nothing is being done worldwide. And this is a worldwide problem. I could easily support something that said on contingency that others did something, I don't know, 10%, 20%, I don't know exactly where I would fall on this, but we're asking to make life more uncomfortable for our citizens with the real possibility of not having any impact because of all these other nations that are evolving. You might call them third world countries, I guess, that are evolving and continue to utilize coal as their main source of energy. So I'm concerned. I don't know where I'm at on it, but I am concerned.
Commissioner Munzer?
I don't have anything else.
Okay. I don't have anything else to that. Okay, so 6A, this is a storage area network system replacement.
Yeah, thank you, commissioners. This is for your consideration is to purchase a storage area network. And this is with, in case of backup storage. The storage area network, also known as SAN, is a critical system which provides enterprise data storage, including ensuring common files countywide. Information technology has established an infrastructure lifecycle replacement plan of 5 years to deal with the storage area network. This the county purchased and installed existing SAN back in 2012, which obviously has exceeded the scheduled life cycle. So for your consideration is for you to authorize the Information Technology Director to go ahead and authorize this particular contract for $130,500 and $100,757 is two outfits related to this. One is for the enterprise, the storage area network, and the other one is for the cohesive backup storage. This particular contract, these particular vendors are part of the state vendor list, and that is why we bring this item without a formal procurement process for your consideration. Dennis?
Good morning, Commissioners. Dennis Osorio, IT Director. I know we talked about this before, but yeah, this will essentially allow us to centralize all of our file storage to be on one single device, allowing numerous features that we don't have now. One of the big ones being encryption at rest. Also, as Romero stated, our current storage is out of date and end of life, so it'll allow for future security patches and updates. And it'll also the addition of the cohesive backup storage will allow us to centralize all of our backups on the exact same solution, which allows some ransomware protections and robust backups. And as stated, these are all on state contracts. That's why there's no competitive process.
Go ahead.
Also, Dennis, you want to elaborate this is somewhat of one two-step process. Because the second step is you were working on a briefing later in the year to assess the cloud storage strategies in the county. Is that correct?
Yes, that is correct. Sorry. Yes, and later in the year, I do plan to put together a complete cloud strategy so we can go over exactly what the future is looking like. And in addition, as we move this, as we centralize all of our data, we will be asking the vendors that will be helping us for some solutions on cleaning that data up. So if we do move to the cloud, we're not bringing unnecessary data with us.
Commissioner Edwards?
Yes.
Go ahead.
Dennis, is this move going to prevent us from being hacked or held hostage at some point in the future?
I don't believe there's ever 100% prevention in that, but this will be another layer of security added onto that.
Okay. How about the difference? You mentioned cloud. I have heard, I think, concerns from our chair about cloud versus other stuff. So how does it all fit for a novice? I'll be the novice, but I think I represent a constituency out there that is curious.
Sure. So our primary objective right now, this will be supporting all of our file storage. So if we look at it's when you go save files as we work on Excel documents, PowerPoint documents, things that are locally stored. Our current cloud strategy is moving all of our applications to cloud software. So as we come with these large application replacements, we'll continue to look for software as a service products, which will essentially shrink our footprint of our local storage. But as you know, we have multiple of those large applications going forward. I believe once we get all the applications upgraded, we'll then be able to look realistically at what our local storage is and then do a business analysis on if that really needs to be moved to the cloud or not.
I guess maybe just as a follow-up, you mentioned that no system is 100% when it comes to the hacking or being held hostage, that type of thing, with technology. So is this the absolute best there is to offer that is available to us to purchase? Or if we spent 10% more, could we get a 30% increase in protection? Or if we spent 20% less, could we get 10% less or something like that? I mean, I'm just trying to maximize the taxpayers' money in expenditure and gain as much protection as we possibly can.
I understand. I believe by design, the biggest gap in all security is everything being connected and our users using the data. And there's really no way around that. So there's always going to be a significant risk. I believe it's a multi-pronged approach as we're putting in different layers of security, such as multi-factor, and continuing to educate all of our users through cybersecurity training and our phishing campaigns. There's not a one size fits all, like where we could just put in one piece of technology and you're completely safe. I believe this does do another layer, though. As I stated, it allows for encryption at rest, which is pretty much become the standard and will allow us to meet a lot of compliance requirements. And then the backup solution will definitely allow us more flexibility if something was to happen, to be able to restore in an immediate manner.
And when you say backup solution, even though we have one of these nefarious activities take place against us with either a hacking or being held hostage, can we eliminate that threat, not pay them off in Bitcoin or whatever they require, and immediately go to this backup system and continue to do business? Unless they've hacked into that as well, I guess. But is that a potential for protection?
Correct. That is the ideal. That'd be the ideal scenario. If something was to happen, we'd be able to restore from backups. Cohesity, the backup solution that we have, and we have this on the majority of the county right now. This will just be expanding it. It does have some ransomware protection. So say something was to infiltrate our system and change a significant amount of files, we would get an alert when it went to backup. So we didn't go to restore from corrupted backups. Because as you stated, that is what happens. They wait, the bad guys wait a little while. They put in these tools, then they eventually infect your backup. So when you go to restore, you're in the same situation. This solution does give us some protections against that.
I guess I'd like to hear from the chair about her thoughts on this particular topic.
Well, I mean, I don't have many thoughts on it. I do agree with you on many of the questions. I thought the questions were very pointed. Good job, Commissioner Edwards. I'm very proud of you right now. I mean, I think it's where we're at. And there's a future presentation. Ramiro stated that there was a future presentation that came forth where we're going to talk about both the cloud and how that's going to be more of a phase 2 approach. And I'm very happy about that. And so at this time, I'm okay with moving forward with this just because there is that phase 2 approach that we're going to get to. So, I mean, it's going to be a slow but sure approach, I'm hoping.
Right. I guess I might just say I've got limited knowledge. If the chair is willing to move forward on this with her more expansive background, I'm all for it.
I'm not an IT.
Well, you're obviously better than I am. So that's a step in the right direction.
Commissioner Mentor, any questions?
Yeah, so this is a implementation of the discussion we had on the budget item. Is that right? Dennis, you're nodding. And so are the dollar amounts here in line with what we allocated in that budget discussion?
They're actually less.
Okay, that's good.
Yes.
That's what I wanted to know. I'm good to go.
Yeah, it's always good when it's less. Okay, great. So we'll move on to, thank you, Dennis.
Thank you.
Okay, 7, Public Health and Social Services, Local Solid Waste Financial Assistance Agreement with the Department of Ecology.
Thank you, Commissioner. Let me walk you through briefly, considering the time crunch and many items left in your agenda this morning. This particular item is for us to receive an additional grant from the Department of Ecology related to local solid waste financial assistance. This is in order of $220,188. It requires a match of $73,396. And the matching requirements will be coming from the tipping fees. And this is mainly related to education strategies that we put in place related to training, childcare, lower hazard practices, and also any household hazard materials. And again, this is related to receiving more money, continue with the program, and also the contract will go from July 1st, 2021, extending it to June 30, 2023. Chris?
Good morning, Commissioners. Chris Hawkins here, Thurston County Public Health and Social Services Education and Prevention Program Manager. County Manager Chavez has summarized it well. This is a new biennium funding coming from Department of Ecology to allow us to implement household and public education to reduce toxics across our community and reduce exposures of our residents to those toxics. And 3 main activities associated with this are the childcare trainings, community workshops, which are under the banner of Healthy Homes and Gardens, which is primarily about reducing use of pesticides and other hazardous products around the home and in the garden. And then also a new partnerships effort with housing service providers to help residents who are in transitional housing learn about lower toxic cleaning methods and practices to keep them safer in their new homes. So we work with local agencies, housing agency service providers on that project. So that's a quick summary of what this is. And Department of Ecology pays for 3/4 of the costs, and the local tipping fees are the match on that of 25%.
Commissioner Edwards?
Yes, I don't know if my questions or some comment is directed more towards the county manager or to Chris for this, but I understand that we offer our citizens a state-of-the-art Hazel House process so that we can keep those toxic products out of our environment. So does this help us continue Hazel House, or is it completely separate?
Is separate but complementary. I think the education aspects of the households related to hazardous materials will include the options of taking those materials to the Hazel House. So is complementary but not related, because the Hazel House is funded by tip and fees entirely.
And that's through a separate contract that we have with someone, apparently, right?
No, that's managed by Public Works.
Yeah, but doesn't Hazel House, isn't that some kind of a contract we have?
No, the Hazel House is the recipient. What you remember is a contract to dispose those
Of Hazel House material that
the
comes in.
materials, and they would secure the services of a contractor for disposal of those materials.
That's right.
But the Hazel House management is done by county employees.
Okay, so this is just going to enhance our ability to continue a good program that we're utilizing now to protect the environment. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, I see Chris shaking his head all the time there as you were.
I'm nodding about
Okay.
that one. Yes, I agree with that. It is sort of the upstream or prevention side of reducing toxics or hazardous household products in our community. So, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Menser?
I'm good.
Okay, thank you, Chris. Okay, now to item 8, and we have quite a couple things from Public Works,
Well, I
so.
have a slew of items by Public Works, so I will try to go digitally present those items.
Okay.
The first item, 8A, is the department received a grant of $900,000 from the federal government to make improvements on Old Highway 99 and the intersection of 201st and Sargent Road. The current intersection will be built, will be reconstructed with a single-lane roundabout. This particular grant requires a match 10%. The 10% match will come from the road fund. One of the steps the department needs to do is to sign a project prospectus and a local agency agreement with the Washington State Department of Transportation to secure those funds. And this particular item is for you to authorize the director to sign those documents so we can secure the grant and start working on the project.
Okay, and Commissioner Edwards, questions?
Yes, who all is a participant and contributor to this project? Because the project is going to be more than $1 million.
So I think you're referring to a different runabout.
Oh, maybe so.
Yeah, is the Highway 12 or Sargent Road?
Okay,
That's a different runabout. This is Highway 99 in Sargent Road. It's a little bit south of that intersection.
okay, and is the $1 million going to cover that?
I believe that covers, if you add the matching funds, will cover the cost of the project.
Okay, that's all I need to know, thank you.
That staff from Public Works is here to correct me.
Okay. Commissioner Menser?
No, I don't have anything.
Okay, thank you. I don't have any questions.
Teresa has something.
I see Teresa's got her hands
Okay,
up.
go ahead, Teresa.
So this is actually partially funded. We will likely get more funds the next allocation of STBG funding. So more to come. We're going to start with design and right of way, and then move forward with the next round to get the rest of the construction money allocated. So sorry for the misunderstanding.
And thank you for the clarification. Also, can you confirm this is not the runabout that we're working on with the partners on Highway 12 or Sergeant Road? It's a different one.
You are correct.
Yeah, thank you.
So, just to clarify, the match is it still 10% or is it more?
It's 13.5%.
13.5%? Okay. Any questions from?
I guess I'd ask Teresa, when you say right away, you're talking about acquisition of property needed to do the project, right?
Correct.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Okay, item 8B,
I'm gonna be an engineer.
the project prospectus and local agency agreement for the Pacific Avenue Southeast Pavement Preservation
Yeah,
Project.
this is similar. The department has received a federal funds of $2,800,000 to do a preservation work on Pacific Avenue. And the limits is from the Union Mills to the city of Lacey. This what we call is an overlay program. Overlay work, they will require grinding of the existing pavement and then overlaying with new. And again, the step in the process is to authorize the director to sign the project prospectus and local agency agreement to secure the grant. And I believe this particular grant does not require a match. Is that correct?
That is correct. So this paperwork was put together before that allowance came out. So it reflects that we have a match, but in fact, that's been waived in the state and will give us more federal money to cover the match.
That's great. Questions, Commissioner Edwards?
So we're gonna have a fix-it project and we're not gonna deplete our road fund quite as much as we thought. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. That's the kind of stuff I like to hear.
Commissioner Menzer?
Good.
Okay, great. So item 8C, project prospectus and local agency agreement for the Yelm Highway Southeast Pavement Preservation Project.
Similar to the previous item, in this case is the department has been awarded $3.1 million to do a preservation work along Yelm Highway. And the limits of Yelm Highway will be Ridge Road and this Lacey city limits. And again, the department's requesting for you to authorize the director to sign the appropriate documentations with the state so we can secure the grant. And also, I believe this particular grant does not require a match. It's 100% funded.
Okay.
That's correct.
Okay. Questions, Commissioner Edwards?
Part of that, doesn't that go along, like part of the Elm Highway there isn't about half the road in Olympia at some point as well?
So this area is entirely within the county. I think what you look in Yelm Highway is further to the west. I believe.
Okay, but we do have it covered with
Yes,
other
this
jurisdictions.
is purely within the county's jurisdiction.
Okay, thank you.
So I've heard, oh, sorry, go ahead, Commissioner Menzer, questions?
I just want to let Public Works know they can bring as many of these agenda items forward as they want. 'Cause
Yeah.
I won't complain.
I was just wondering kind of, because that's in my neck of the woods, so it's by Ridge Road and
To
which?
the, if you head over to like the city of Lacey, you see the trail overpass. Right there is where the city limits are. the city of Lacey went ahead and overlaid their portion maybe over a year and a half ago. So this project will complement that and overlay that all the way to Ridge Road, to Satina.
That's great.
I do have one follow-up question. Do we have a safety component to that overlay, like, I don't know, bicycle lane or sidewalk or something? Did we get that in there?
It's a bike lane and sidewalk.
Yeah,
It's bike lane and a
and
sidewalk.
sidewalk. Okay. Thank you.
I run on that road
Yeah,
often.
okay, good. Thank you, Teresa.
And I also can tell you there is in a dire need to be overlaid.
Great, okay. So now item 8D, contract award for Pacific Avenue Safety Mid-Block Crossing Project.
Thank you, Commissioner. On November 24, 2021, the department received 4 bids to provide mid-block crossings along Pacific Avenue. This is part of a safety program. The result of the bidding process, the low bidder was Market Construction of Hills, Washington, which they provided a little bit of $564,154. The department is asking the board to award that contract to Market Construction LLC, and also authorize the director to execute the contract with up to 10% deviation. I think Tracy's here to add any perspective on this.
Commissioner Edwards?
This refers to Pacific Avenue and Mid-Block Crossing Project and a number. Where is that crossing project taking place at?
So the limits of the project is from the city of Lacey to Union Mills. And I think it's 3 locations for the crossings that we're planning to use. Is that correct? 4 or 5? I can't see your fingers.
4.
4, thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioner Menzer?
No, I'm good.
Perfect. Okay, item 8E, resolution and call for sealed bids for the culvert supply for Fish Passage Enhancement 2022.
Thank you. This is related to the fish barrier passage program. The board is well familiar with that successful program. And as in the past, we have exercised a couple of step process in order to meet the intent of what we call as the fish window, which is a window during the summer that we can do work and then stream. So this approach the Public Works have developed and has been successful again is, first of all, this authorized the department to go ahead and secure the bids for the materials. That will be 2 concrete culverts that will be purchased ahead of time, and when the project is ready, then those culverts will be installed at those locations. So this is one of the 2-step process the departments like to do. There's 2 locations. One is Little Rock at the Black Lake River tributary, and the other one is the Houston Drive Northwest at the Houston Creek. And I believe Catherine Tran is here from Public Works to add additional perspective and answer any questions.
Catherine?
Hello, hi. I'm here to answer any questions that you may have on this.
Commissioner Edwards?
I guess the only comment that I might have on this is for the public's knowledge, and some of the public does review this, I think it would be beneficial, and I think I've asked about the location about 3 or 4 different times. I think it would always be beneficial just to have just a location, so they don't have to take the prospective project number and try and research it and hook it up.
Did you ask about the locations on the action?
Well, just in here somewhere.
Yeah, we'll do that. Yeah, we'll have the locations on the action.
Well, yeah, and maybe in the future, I won't have to ask you so many questions if they were in there. I just think the public likes to know where their money is being spent and what we're doing. And I mean, I think it reflects positively on the county commission as well as our staff that then people know, well, in my neighborhood, they are doing X, Y, or Z, even though they don't drive by there each time. Just make it a little more easy to explain to them. Thank you.
So let's go ahead and revise the action to include the locations. Teresa?
Sure, we can do that.
Thank you.
Commissioner Mensah, questions?
No. We-
Okay, thank you. Okay, so item 8F, set a public hearing for application of Scott Lake Maintenance Company for a non-exclusive franchise for our water system.
Yeah, thank you, Commissioners. The department received an application for a franchise, a non-inclusive franchise agreement. And it's related to Scott Lake Maintenance Company, which they have and operate a water line. There is a particular areas in the county that this particular company provides services to you. And in order for the board to consider this application, you need to hold a public hearing. And that is the gist of this particular actions for you to consider setting the public hearing February 22nd, 2022 at 3 in the afternoon before you can move forward again on the application process and issuing a franchise agreement. Craig Sisson from Public Works is here to add additional conversation. Perspective, Craig?
Good morning, Commissioners. I'm here to answer any questions if you have them on this particular item.
Thank you. Commissioner Edwards?
Yes, are we going to be in a situation here where we're gonna get in the middle of rate structures and different things like that? This is a private area with a private water company, and they're expanding or upgrading. What's happening?
So it is all correct. It's a private water company. They would like to use the public's right of way to maintain and operate their lines and facilities. There is nothing related, we don't get involved, the county doesn't get involved in any fees with their customers. This is just an authorization for them to operate within the county's right of way.
That is correct. And this is an existing water system. This franchise will allow them to legally be within the right of way. They are already within the right of way. We have a number of these within the county, and this is one. As each of these systems come back to do work within the right of way, we ask that they get a franchise to legalize their use of the right of way.
So this is just kind of clean up stuff, is that it?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Mensah?
Mr. Edwards covered it for me.
Okay, perfect. Okay, no questions for me. On to the next item, 8G, set a public hearing for application of Elk Inlet Community Water Association for a non-exclusive franchise for our water system.
Similar to the previous item, in this particular case is related to the Elk Inlet Community Water Association, but similar issue as the previous item.
Okay, questions, Commissioner Edwards?
No, ma'am.
Commissioner Mensah?
No?
Okay, thank you so much, Craig.
Thank you.
Okay, and so with that, we're on to, have I been saying the wrong numbers? Okay. On to our sending items, which with item A, commissioners will report on board work sessions and assigned committee meetings, providing updates on actions taken as well as upcoming issues. After that, item B, the county manager will review the Board of County Commissioners schedule for the week of January 18th, and item C will adjourn. Shortly after that, we will have a public hearing at 3 p.m. Or soon thereafter. And Maya Teeple, is she here? And this is a public hearing for Development Code Docket item CR5, Places of Worship Code Amendment.
Yeah, Commissioners, this is following the direction of the board for you to consider take public testimony before you take in a final action on code amendments related to the places of worship. It was a couple of briefings on the board, and on December 14th, we said we took an action to set the public hearing for next Tuesday. And soon after that, depending on the public testimony that you might receive, we may have a couple of options for you. One is obviously to close the public hearing, and always an option for you to approve the ordinance depending on the public testimony that you might receive. The second option is always optional, depending on the public testimony. If there is significant testimony that needs to be evaluated, we will schedule a follow-up briefing before the board considers taking an action.
Maya, anything to add?
That was a great summary. I have nothing to add, but I'm happy to answer any questions the board may have.
Commissioner Edwards?
I guess my only question would be, are we involved in any type of adverse contention going on amongst groups here? Has there been anything brought to the forefront that not in my backyard, or yes, I want this, or is it kind of just clean up and allowing them to continue with their serving the public?
Yes, thank you for that question, Commissioner Edwards. There has not been a lot of public engagement on this proposal. The public engagement we have received is in support of the option that the board is considering, which does include some sort of regulatory standards to limit size of dormitories. So there hasn't been a lot of back and forth on the specific option that the board will be having a hearing on next week.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Menser?
Good.
Okay, thank you, Maya. And then at 7 p.m., we will be having a joint public hearing in regards to Tumwater Annexation Interlocal Agreement. And Jeremy Davis is here.
Yeah, we'll be providing a script for you. This is a joint public hearing with the Tumwater City Council. This is related to request for an annexation of what we call the islands within the city of Tumwater. The board was briefed on this, and this is the direction the board decided to go with in terms of having a joint public hearing as opposed to separate public hearings. So that is why it's scheduled for 7 in the afternoon to allow the Tumwater City Council also to be part of that conversation. This is going to be all virtual. It is not going to be an in-person testimony. So, and again, we'll draft a script for you as a chair this week and see how we're going to be managing the logistics between the City Council and the Board of County Commissioners. Jeremy, anything to add?
Thank you, County Manager Chavez. I don't have anything to add at this time. I'd be happy to answer any questions. Do know that we're diligently working with city staff on that proposed script and actions for both the City Council and County Commissioners for the procedure for that night.
Thank you. Commissioner Edwards?
My only question would be to Jeremy, how do you know we were going to have this virus problem? So you got this all set up ahead of time. And I want access to your crystal ball. And the other thing is, any adverse reaction from the public or landowners or anything coming in on this?
We are currently taking public comments, both Planning Manager Madrid from the City of Tumwater and myself, and we're going to be sharing all public comments we receive. I received one written public comment in opposition to one of the annexation areas, and this is the one just off Little Rock Road. Again, I'll be forwarding all written comments to both the Board and City Council, so you both see all comments.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Menser?
No, nothing.
And I have a question, and it's more in regards to the logistics of it. Are we going to be in a Tumwater Zoom or county Zoom?
Yeah, the city of Tumwater will host the Zoom. So we'll provide you all that information after the Tumwater this week, and then you can participate.
Commissioner Edwards?
I guess as a follow-up to the chair's question, I don't know how this works as far as when we're physically not here. And are we kind of in the realm of the city of Tumwater? And do we have to have this advertised for a certain period of time to make sure that it's like an off-campus meeting, so we meet all the requirements in the law?
All that has been done.
That's all covered.
We have advertised, we have noticed the public, we holding a public hearing, and we have provided information to the public as to how they can get access to this public hearing.
Okay.
Good question, sir.
Thank you.
If I might also add, the city of Tumwater has also mailed postcards to all affected property owners with the time and date of public hearing and how the citizens may join it.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, great, thank you. And with that, we'll move on to our next item. Okay, proclamations and awards.
Good morning, Amy Davis, clerk for the board. Last week, the same document for proclamations was included in your packet. If you've had a chance to review, we can go through those now. Or if you've made notes on your sheet, I'm happy to pick those up and take those to compile an updated proclamation schedule for this year.
Commissioner Edwards?
No, I don't think I have anything at this point. I brought up something maybe the last meeting about law enforcement.
Yeah, I'm still searching for that one, and I'll get in touch with the sheriff's office to see if they recall.
Okay, thank you.
So are we starting a law enforcement appreciation day?
No, we are not this month.
Not?
No. But we do, I assumed the board would like to move forward with the Martin Luther King Jr. proclamation. So that is on for next week, and we'll distribute the draft this week.
Okay, Commissioner Menzer?
Yeah, so I took a stab. There's 6 in May and 5 in October, and I whittled each of those down to 3. And I can give this to Amy, but just so you know, what I proposed is starting with October, either move walk to school to Board of Health or not do it, and not do cybersecurity or alternate it year to year, so that we're left with breast cancer, domestic violence, and flood. And then in May, keep military appreciation, Asian American heritage, and then get rid of bicycle commuter month, and then collapse the last 3 together. So there's emergency medical services and public works and public service recognition. I thought we could maybe do a public service recognition and sort of highlight emergency medical services and public works as part of that. So it's kind of like one thing versus having 6 different things in May. That was my suggestion for how to have no more than 3 in any given month. But just a thought. I'm not.
I'm wondering if bicycle commuter month, if that can go into Board of Health as well, just because it's in relation to health and.
I know sitting on the Intercity Transit Board, and I know Commissioner Mejia is there now, we made a big deal out of this, and it was a big thing. And so I kind of felt like, well, maybe that's covered appropriately by the Intercity Transit Authority, and on all they do like a contest and social media campaign, and then they have a whole to-do during that month on that. So I don't know, it felt like maybe if we had to trim one, that would be one to trim, but.
Okay, I'm okay with it. Intercity Transit does do a big.
Board of Health, it makes sense too, but I didn't have the Board of Health list in front of me. We only have 1 meeting per month with Board of Health.
Yeah. Okay.
I think I like the idea as proposed by Ty, but I also like the idea of you maybe in some kind of a wellness thing. We have probably the best example in Chris of recognizing bicycle awareness or utilization, whatever you want to call it. And I don't think we ought to short Chris somehow or another. I like to brag about Chris once in a while. So if we could do that at the Board of Health, I think it'd even be more appropriate under the guise of wellness. So I don't know how my seatmates feel about that.
Well, another thing we could do is remember how for the Elks issue, we kind of created this recognition, and the chair just kind of said, in that section of the agenda, the chair just kind of had a paragraph saying, hey, the commissioners want to recognize Bicycle Commuter Month, and you could say something about Chris there, whatever, without creating a whole like proclamation and speeches and stuff. I mean, that was the point of kind of creating a middle ground so we could recognize something, but not necessarily chew up 15 minutes of agenda time if we have other proclamations that are competing with it.
Very
Just a
good
thought.
suggestion. Good suggestions.
County Manager.
Could I provide a perspective on MA? I understand the objective to have maybe 2 or 3, but some of the proclamations have taken is meaningful, not just to public, but also to county employees. Suggestion that perhaps you may consider taking from May the Emergency Medical Services Week, maybe have it in April, the last week in April. The last meeting in April, I acknowledge that week specifically. The Public Service Recognition Week, we can pull it over to June because that's something you have the flexibility. And the Public Works Week, that's a national event. It's not a Thurston County Public Works Week, it's a national Public Works Week. So I would recommend for you to consider keeping that in May.
I'd like to make a comment.
Go ahead, Commissioner Edwards.
I think this discussion this morning is a good example of, for the public to be aware, we only talk about this stuff when it's on the agenda at a public meeting. And our offices are right next to each other, and they were having quite a discussion, but I agree with the county manager as well. I think that's a good way to look at it. So I think that's a good division of those recognition processes, I guess. So, and we don't talk because under the Open Public Meetings Act, we're not allowed to. It isn't that, it's not that we're mad at each other. We may disagree, but we still talk often, and but not about any work-related things like this. So I think it's just a good example of how government sometimes isn't very effective. And I mean, we're getting the job done. We're going to accomplish the goal, but still, I mean, it's got to be frustrating to people not to think, don't you guys ever talk about stuff? So that's all. Thank you.
Commissioner Munster.
I don't have anything. I was just giving suggestions for, I certainly didn't want to lose Emergency Services and Public Works Week. That's why I suggested kind of building them into a broader umbrella, but county manager's suggestion is fine as well, if that's where the board wants to go.
Amy, so could we get kind of like a new with Miro's recommendation, and then alternating Cybersecurity Awareness Month, 1 year yes, 1 year no, and then the Walk to School Month for BLH, and then the Bicycle Commuter Month can just be a recognition for that month.
Yes, yep, I'll create a schedule similar to what was included in packets last year.
Does that sound
Dates.
good?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, and I might just take this moment to comment that because our public works folks have been out really hustling, trying to juggle a lot of balls, no hot potatoes that I'm really aware of, other than maybe they didn't get maybe adequate product all the time, and we had a little weather fluctuation. But those folks have really been doing a good job, I believe. I hear back from citizens quite a bit. And yes, you hear, well, how come my road didn't get plowed or sanded or whatever, but all in all, there's a lot of roads to cover out there, and I think they've done a great job, and you do need to recognize those folks.
I agree.
And sure to help with that, so thank you.
Okay.
Yep.
So with that, we'll go on to item 7, advisory boards and commissions.
Yes, I thought you may like to start with your planning commission nominations. And I'd also like to share beforehand, though, that we have received one new application for the planning commission from Sharon Copes, which has been distributed to each of your offices. And just a reminder, we would like to include these on an agenda for formal appointment either this week or next, since the Planning Commission has their election scheduled for January 19th, just next Wednesday.
So what's the new application we'll have?
It's just right behind the packet. It's just a single document.
And is that for the Planning Commission?
Yes.
And this is for the at-large or Commission district?
District 1.
Okay.
I would just like to make a statement that I'm going to support these nominations that my seatmates have. And but I did want to say that the commissioner from my district that stepped down, Ms. Nickerson, was the only female on our planning commission. And her letter, I know you guys all got it, but I would just say that, you know, she says, the reasons are of a personal nature and the recent lack of cooperation by other members of the commission. And I just wanted to highlight that because Ms. Nickerson's been on the Planning Commission for a long time. She elaborated in comments to me. I had a one-on-one meeting with her before she stepped down, and she elaborated on this and felt like in the past, the Planning Commission had worked together. They'd met off-site, had dinner together, worked through issues very collegially. And she felt like that had really broken down. And she has a historical perspective of having been on the commission for a long time. So, and now she's, and that's contributing to her stepping off, which I think is extremely unfortunate. So I would just ask my seatmates to speak with their nominees, and I've already spoken to Mr. Hansen about this issue and the importance of working collegially and trying to restore that sense of civility and collaborativeness that our Planning Commission has had in the past. I'll support all of these nominees because I think each commissioner has the prerogative to bring their nominee forward, but we need to enhance diversity. We need more women on the Planning Commission. I'm glad we're appointing Ms. Wheatley. Hopefully we can get, maybe Ms. Copps will be a good candidate for the other spot. That's up to Commissioner Mejia, but if we can just each talk to our nominees about the importance of civility and how that's kind of broken down, it would be really, I think, a positive. So with that, I'm good to go on these three, either this week or next.
Commissioner Edwards?
I am good to go as well.
County Manager, did you have?
No, I believe there is a concurrence, at least for the three, Ms. Lee, Mr. Hansen, Mr. Overson. We can bring those items for you to take an action next Tuesday.
Okay.
And then at that point, I will give you a week to review the Commissioner Mejia, the application we received for the other appointment.
Perfect. Okay, that's great. And so with that, you want to jump on item 2?
Yes. We received an application from the City of Lacey for the Capital Area Regional Public Facilities District Board. The application is from Chris Leicht for reappointment as a regional representative. Regional representatives are required to be appointed or reappointed by the legislative bodies of Olympia, Lacey, Tumwater, and Thurston County. I've inquired on the status of the other jurisdictions, and I know Olympia and Tumwater I don't believe have assessed the application yet, and the City of Lacey will have this on their agenda early February. Would you like to circle back next week on the application?
Commissioner Edwards?
Do we need to, or are we gonna wait for the other jurisdictions? I guess, I'm not sure on the process.
So in the past, we have just moved forward with our action of reappointing, and other jurisdictions take the same. The application was just sent over on Friday, so I don't know they've all quite had the chance to distribute it and decide.
I'll look to the chair for advice on that.
Do you have any questions, Commissioner Munster?
I don't, it's fine with me.
Okay, I did not. What's a capital area regional public facilities district?
Yeah, that's interesting. Good question.
Yeah.
This is the state has a funding source. They allocates to a region funding specific projects that have regional significance, as long as they have this public facilities district. So years ago, we funded two big projects. One is the RAC in Lacey, and the other one is the Children's Museum in downtown Olympia. But in order to continue with this process, this district oversees the financial aspects of those two larger projects. That's what the appointment is. It also allows for any type of future project, if there is any money, to see how regionally this could be also another project can be sought. So there is really no other action other than overseeing the already funded and constructed projects under this public facilities.
So, Amy, again, just to go back to the process, we vote on this appointment, and then someone else has to go on it as well?
Yes, the other 3 jurisdictions do as well.
Okay.
Not necessarily in any certain order.
So similar to the regional Timberline library system.
Okay.
Yeah, there's representatives from other counties, and the board takes an action to affirm that appointment because we're part of that district.
Okay.
Similar in nature.
So, and then going back to kind of Commissioner Edwards' point of, should we wait for the other jurisdictions to vote first? If we have to do this is who we want, and then everyone just kind of confirms it?
It's not sequential, it's just each jurisdiction will take an action individually, but it's not sequential as far as I understand.
Okay. I would like to review the application. I don't really have a problem with the reappointment. But I guess more to come on that.
Yeah, we can.
I'm fine.
Whatever you think is fine with me.
Okay, so moving on to the next item, PIO check-in.
Good morning, Commissioners. Megan Porter, Public Information Supervisor. The last 3 weeks have been a lot of emergency response for Brian and I, getting messaging out there on the snow event and then on the flooding event. Emergencies are always great for our social media. And so over the last 3 weeks, we've had 575 more followers on Facebook and 108 on Twitter. So that's great for regular messaging and for emergency messaging, so we know that it's getting out to our residents who need to see the information. And we have begun taking on the homeless and housing prevention coordinating office department, I can't remember what they're called, and environmental health. And so we're adjusting our workload a little bit to accommodate that additional workload. And the kickoff for IT and myself with the web redesign consulting company is this week. So we'll be talking to them and it'll clarify a little bit on the timelines. And then we will be talking to the web coordinators in the next couple weeks. Kickoff official is mid-February for the actual project. So moving forward on that, pending any questions, that's what I have.
Go ahead, Commissioner Owens.
I'll just use as an example, yesterday, we got notice that here's your news briefings for the week, I guess. Just to kind of start the week off, I think is the way maybe it's referred to. Anyway, in looking through those sources, I didn't see the jolt on there. And I just wondered, are you aware of the jolt? Does it have articles that it does on occasion, and sometimes it's listed?
Yes, if Brian compiles that and he looks at the jolt every time, and if there's an article, he'll include it. If there's not, he won't.
Maybe they didn't have an article.
Yeah.
I just was wondering.
Yep.
How so you do them all, every news source, Do you do podcasts? And I don't know what your criteria is. If it's a county issue, do you give it coverage? Is that it? Or do these folks, do you read everything that comes through in the line of news? Or does somebody need to submit that, hey, I wrote a topic on this clean stream or stream team or whatever?
Our policy or our procedure is if someone speaks to the media, they're supposed to send us a media contact form so we know that they've spoken to the media. But what Brian does for these particular is goes through our media sources and also Google's Thurston County, and you can look up news on Thurston County. And so it'll pull up any reference to Thurston County in the news. And depending on what the topic is, if it's relevant to Thurston County government, he'll include it in there. Sometimes someone will send us an article and say, hey, can you include this in the news clippings? Because it's an article that is about Thurston County business that maybe we wouldn't see in some obscure journal or something. So we try and gather as much news as we can in those weekly reports.
I guess I'll use an example of, I believe it's a state publication for Public Works, and oftentimes they will recognize, you know, Kitsap County did something, or Spokane County, or Thurston County, maybe a salmon enhancement program, or whatever it is. Do we try to utilize this mechanism to bring positive attention to our own folks, I guess? It's hard to brag about yourself, so to speak, but sometime when we're doing good work, the public should probably be made aware of it.
Yeah.
I just asked the question. If you're always trying to get more exposure, might that be a way, and I am the wrong person to ask on how you might approach that, but if there's a mechanism out there that we could utilize to recognize, you know, good stuff, hard work, or a bridge out. Doesn't matter what it is, I just wonder if we shouldn't be utilizing it, because I know you're always trying to expand your exposure.
Yeah, we often share things like that on social media, especially if a department notifies us of something, some kind of article that highlights the work that they're doing. We will share that on social media.
So we kind of leave it up to maybe those individual groups within the county, maybe to point that out. Because we can't, I'm sure we can't research everything. I can't keep up on all the reading that I'm trying to do.
Yeah.
Let alone with you folks. I've actually wore my eyes out in the last 5 years, doing a lot more reading than I ever intended to do.
Yeah, we definitely don't find everything, but often departments will let us know if something like that is out there, or offices, and we'll share it. But we try and find stuff like that too. It's a lot for one person to manage all that.
In one of our news releases, hey, you guys have something you want to highlight, you know, no guarantees, but let us know.
Yeah, I remind the appointed directors of that at our meetings regularly, and yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Megan. Commissioner Munster?
Nothing, thank you.
Okay, great. Thank you, Megan.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
Considering the time and the items left on the agenda, could I suggest a couple of options for you?
Yes.
A couple items that perhaps need to be discussed is walk you through this particular bill, House Senate Bill 5662. For the commissioner items, my suggestion will be to delay the recent weather events report to next week. Next week, I'll already have scheduled a snowstorm report, so we'll just combine all that into a single briefing.
Okay.
And for the long-term agriculture, there's going to require a little more conversation. With your concurrence, I will bring this item as part of your commissioners check-in this Thursday. And that will give you the time to revisit some of the conversations that you had. And the hotel lease extension is something that we need to have a conversation with.
Okay.
Would that work?
So, okay. Sounds good. Does that sound good to?
Yeah, that sounds good to me, or
Commissioner Munster?
Yep, that's fine.
Sorry, I interrupted you, Commissioner Edwards.
So then you're gonna talk about public testimony?
No, I have the Senate Bill 5662 and the hotel lease.
Oh, you're gonna actually talk about those now?
Yes, with the concurrence.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, okay.
I don't have nothing in public testimony.
Okay. I do have one item I'd like to bring up at the very end, if I just have, just very short.
Sure, let's get through these two items, which will be the legislative update and the hotel lease extension under commissioner items. So with that, I'll go ahead and give it to you, Romero, legislative update.
Thank you. This is the beginning of the loan process, and last year, as you may know, they have a whole list. So this is the beginning. This is a proposed House Bill, Senate Bill 5662. And what this bill is intended to do, the bill creates an Office of Intergovernmental Coordination on Public's Right-of-Way Homeless Encampments in the Department of Health and Social Services of the state. They will be responsible for coordinating policy and practice efforts to reduce the number of persons in the unsanctioned encampments in the state's and public's right-of-way, and having that transition plan to more housing solutions. This is really a good bill because this is something that we have been clamoring at these local jurisdictions in the past. 3 years ago, as you may recall, Commissioner Edwards, the state was in the process of going through sweeping all the encampments within the state's right-of-way. And the actions of that would have resulted in having all those encampments spill over into the local jurisdictions. What it does, this bill is create this entity that has more coordinating effort among the states and local jurisdictions. And the reason that I'm bringing this to you, there is a public hearing scheduled for Thursday, January 13th, and I will recommend the board to provide your support to this bill.
I have one question.
Go ahead, Commissioner Edwards.
So in other words, maybe this wouldn't affect the aesthetics of Wheeler Street, for an example, along I-5, because I think that's off onto a city right away. I think it's on the other side of the fence.
I think it will, because it addresses not just the states right away, but also local jurisdictions right away.
Oh, okay, good.
So it's all into a single.
And we've had quite a few pedestrians from these camps that have gotten run over in the middle of the night on the freeway. And I think that's a direct contribution to that problem. So, and then like over here that I keep complaining about on 101, God, it just looks like a junkyard. Doesn't look like anybody's staying there now, but it's if we nip it in the bud, so to speak, right now, and I don't see any reason at all why DOT couldn't just go in there and clean that up. I mean, it looks like hell. That's the best way I can put it. So.
Yeah, and we're gonna get into the hotel lease extension because we need to make sure that whatever action the jurisdiction takes doesn't cause a reaction to others.
Well, I want it to cause a reaction to this not having.
But not to the county.
Garbage dump.
But not to the county. So but I think this bill, I think has good intentions to create this new group that we'll call holistic litigation.
Okay, thank you.
My recommendation is for you to support it.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, Commissioner Menser?
I support.
So you have 3 thumbs up?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, thank you. And the next item that I have is the hotel lease extension. There is a paper drafted for your consideration in your packet. And let me find it. It looks like this. Okay. So let me give you the background, and then I'll have staff to walk you through what the proposal before you is today. As you may know, the City of Olympia swept the Chutes encampment back in December 8, 2021. And we knew at that point that it was going to create some issues because the city didn't have an exit strategy related to that. So the result of that, the city housed individuals as a result of the sweep in hotel rooms. Those hotel rooms had an end date of January 3rd. And as you may know, we extended that for another few days. And also, the county has participated, has stepped up to help the city in managing that particular action the city took. So I have keep briefing the board on those terms. My concern is all of a sudden, it has become a county issue to resolve it without having the participation from the city. We have been coordinating with the city. The city has already agreed to extend the current hotel rooms until January 18, 2022. That action we took a few days back. And the reason to do that is to develop a plan as to how we can probably have a more sustainable way to manage those individuals that were affected by the December 8th, 2021 sweep by the city of Olympia. So the proposal that you're going to hear today is to extend some rooms, the lease of rooms in a couple of hotels for up to 2 months, and with a strategy behind it. And I'm going to have a staff walk you through what that strategy is, because if we don't have a strategy, after 2 months of extending the lease of those hotels, we're going to be ended up here asking again to extend those rooms, right? And that, to me, does not really serve the purpose of how we're going to be able to manage those individuals. So this is a proposal today. It has a cost component, and I believe we have a very good financial plan for you to consider. And I do ask for you to give your go-ahead and implement this plan, because I believe it's something that is doable, feasible, viable. And as you know, we have received many emails related to this particular item for your consideration to continue to work on this process. And I believe this is the process and the plan that we are ready to present this to you. Who's going to take over, Tom?
I'll let Keely starts off.
Excuse me, I'll start us off. So thank you for that excellent summary, Ramiro, of what led us to this point. So currently we have 2 separate hotels where there are 2 groups of folks that were displaced from the Deschutes Parkway due to the sweep on December 8th. Our plan is based largely on a number of factors that are one-time opportunities that make this possible for there to be an exit strategy for these individuals so that we can prevent them just being released back to the streets. One is that we've got Olympia Mutual Aid Partners, their scattered site pilot project. They had 3 staff that were dedicated to the Deschutes encampment, providing case management while they were residing there. And they've moved all of their efforts over to the hotel in order to continue case management and getting people fast-tracked into other options. And they came up with a kind of a timeline that we have adapted as we've been planning over the last week. So one of the things, and it's highlighted in your, on this document, is that we have, and I'll let Tom talk about the financial side of things. We have the Department of Commerce, once they found out that the Deschutes encampment was being swept, they reached out to our office and said, hey, we have some emergency solutions grant COVID funds dollars left. Would that be helpful in managing this sweep of Deschutes? Is it something that you can use? And in fact, yes, we'd very much welcome the ESGCV funds. And so there's this one-time infusion specifically to address this issue, again, that Tom will explain. And then a couple of other factors are happening at this time. One, Unity Commons is in the process of leasing up their housing units above their shelter. Many of the people that are being moved or leased up into those units will be shelter guests that are currently residing in the 24/7 shelter on the base on the first floor of Unity Commons, and also some people will be moved from the Low-Income Housing Institute's Plum Street Village also into Unity Commons. Speaking with Meg Martin, that could ostensibly open up upwards of 45 spaces within their shelter and within the Plum Street Village tiny homes. So that is primarily why we think that this is possible. There are several steps that must occur. Folks will have to go through the coordinated entry process and get prioritized in order to be considered. for taking those spaces inside Unity Commons, but it is a significant number of housing units or shelter units that will become available in the next couple of weeks. They've already started this week. And so we're in communication with Interfaith Works as well as Olympia Mutual Aid Partners to help fast track that and get going on that, getting them into coordinated entry and hopefully getting them into those shelters. So that is the biggest one-time opportunity that is really, we will probably not ever really be able to duplicate again in the near future. There's other opportunities that are presenting themselves. First Christian Church is considering, and I had spoken with Pastor Amy back in December about expanding their New Hope Village, which is in the parking lot, by adding additional tiny homes down in their parking lot. So adding an additional 8 units, which would increase the capacity for folks to be staying there, which is another linkage with Olympia Mutual Aid Partners or OLIMAP, because they've already been working with Pastor Amy on how they would support that community as it grows, as they build more tiny homes. And then 2 other faith-based communities have expressed interest in helping to relieve some of this pressure from camp sweeps in the near future. And they're going back to their congregations and talking about it before they can make a firm commitment, but all of it being leading up to when Franz Anderson becomes available. And then potentially when the mitigation site moves, there may be some spaces that are opening up then. So all of these things are happening all at once, which makes it very, very probable that we can move those individuals out of the hotels into a solution other than unsheltered homelessness. So we're proposing that we move the individuals from one hotel, it's a smaller number of individuals, into a single hotel in order to assure that there's consistency in service delivery and that there's a concentration of where people are at, so that service providers, outreach workers, OLIMAP, City of Olympia staff, coordinated entry, Thurston Mason, BHASO will all be able to work with those individuals in one place. So we're suggesting that they move over on the 18th to the larger hotel. And then, as you'll see, there's a timeline. This was Tom's brainchild of how we can, in order to extend this out fully, we would incrementally reduce the number of hotels in a timeline. So at in the first 14 days, starting on the 18th, 17th or 18th, for 2 weeks, we would have upwards of 55 rooms that we've set aside and are paying for. After those 2 weeks, the aim would be to reduce the number of people staying in those hotel rooms by 10 to 15. And then another 2 weeks, and we reduce it even further until we get into the beginning of March, which is when Olympia Mutual Aid Partners will be able to enact their hoteling program. So they would take over the lease at that time and start implementing their program that they just were awarded funds for. And their program is specific to addressing sweeps. And in their plan, they have assumed that they would serve only 12 to 15 individuals for up to 2 weeks after following a camp sweep. And that all hopefully will synchronize with us paying for rooms over the next, through the end of February, beginning of March, and incrementally moving people into those other housing opportunities that are coming up right now. So I'll turn it over to you, Tom.
Great, thanks, Keely. So within your packet or on that document, we provided a funding plan that included $100,000 from the Department of Commerce under the Emergency Solutions Grant COVID program. Commerce promised that money to us. They knew they were kind of reallocating some money. I just got an email this morning from the Department of Commerce that said that they can actually provide us $285,000 to cover these costs. So that's we were hoping to get a little more from Commerce. We're not expecting to get that much more. So that's that will really allow us to use that 285 from the Department of Commerce, 285,000 to cover these costs, possibly covering some of already costs that the county's already incurred for the last couple of weeks for hotels, as well as allow us to, one of the challenges that Keely's really been working on, and she can speak to this more, is the ability to provide support. So it's one thing to cover the costs of the hotel rooms, but it's another thing to kind of provide the support to those individuals that is needed. And so this funding from Commerce may allow us to make sure we have sufficient support for those residents at the one hotel, in addition to utilizing City of Olympia staff who have been supporting them, and the resources from OLIMAP, and there's a group of community volunteers who have also been supporting those residents. So want to kind of update that we have a possibility of $285,000 from the Department of Commerce, and then transitioning to, as Keely mentioned, OLIMAP, which we talked about earlier this morning, and which you'll be hopefully approving later this afternoon under the hotel leasing contract from Commerce, a contract with OLIMAP of around $600,000 that continue the leasing of hotel rooms. That was the intent of that contract. That contract will last for around 18 months. So those funds are intended to get us through June of 2023, but it provides some immediate funding for both hotel rooms and staffing to continue the support for those individuals. So by having an exit plan to draw down, reduce the number of folks staying in hotels every kind of couple of weeks, we're hoping to stretch out those dollars to at least get folks through the winter, the worst of the winter seasons. I think we need to be honest that it's possible we will not be able to provide permanent solutions for everyone, but we think we can provide or identify sustainable solutions for a substantial number of the current residents that are there. So with that, we're happy to answer any questions that you have.
Commissioner Edwards?
Tom, is the $285,000 you're talking about, is that going to be enough to carry us through on that proposed plan that you have?
Yes, it is. We were originally, the plan called for we were trying to do it for around 225 is what we thought we could kind of cobble together. So 285 will be sufficient to cover the costs of the plan as laid out.
So this will not only benefit those unfortunate individuals, but it will also benefit the businesses that we're going to be leasing from, it sounds like, as well. Is that?
Yeah, certainly. It
customers
provides a good source of revenue for that hotel.
And
the hotel will benefit from that, obviously.
Yeah, and then we get $1 back or something like that for heads and beds and all that kind of stuff, right? I'm just trying to pencil it. I'm trying to pencil it all out in my head. Okay, and recognizing the reality that there's only so much room in the lifeboat when it comes right down to it. And many of you have heard me say for years that young people are 30% of our population, but they're 100% of our future. And I think our emphasis should be there. And by being there, I'm inclined to be very supportive of women and kids, women with kids, you know, as maybe being the top priority of getting those rooms. But I'm not in favor of a bunch of deadbeats just showing up here wanting to sign up for freebies from elsewhere. I am very concerned that the word gets out, come here, we'll rent you a room, all that kind of thing. And most of these folks we're dealing with are from elsewhere. That's the bottom line. We never find that out until we've had a very serious adverse interaction either with law enforcement or with medics. So I'm concerned that the point in time count does not require any recognition of a priority for people that are local folks that have run onto hard times for whatever reason. I don't care if it's a personal decision or their job or whatever their situation in life is. They're my top priority next after kids. So I'd be very supportive of kids and moms, at least as the top priority. If you didn't have enough money, at least try to protect them as much as you possibly could. But I am very concerned about the lifeboat. It's going to fill in and sink one of these days if we don't put criteria in place to eliminate that influx of coming from everywhere else, because the word gets out. As soon as we do something benevolent, trying to help folks, it gets out there and then we bring in more customers. And we, quite frankly, can't continue to handle the problems of the whole country, because this is a problem for everybody. Every jurisdiction around is facing this. I don't think in North Dakota, where it's 0 out right now, or 10 below, they have much of a problem, but we've got an ideal climate here. So the other piece of that is that all of these funds come with restrictions and guidelines. I mean, we can't go out and buy a new garbage truck or a sander, you know, or a police car with any of this money anyway, right? And if we don't use it to try and do good, we're just gonna lose out.
That's correct.
Okay, so I have to be for it, but I want to try and restrict all those others from coming here, and even see if we can't decipher between those local folks that are here, give them priority. The rest of them might have to sleep out in the cold. I know that's kind of harsh, but I'm a realist. And that goes back to my lifeboat. So that's kind of where I'm at on this.
Commissioner Menzer?
First, just want to say this seems well thought out and a great example of why we have you guys. So thank you very much for putting all this together. Obviously, there's a lot of pieces that you've braided together into a very sensible sounding approach. The question I have is about, I heard something about a further sweep of Ensign. Is that coming, and does that just, how's that going to be managed in light of all of this?
Yes, the City of Olympia is conducting another portion of a sweep of Ensign Road tomorrow, actually. It's a smaller number of vehicles. It's not the entire run of Ensign. It's just from the Providence Lane, or just beyond Providence Lane and up to Lilly. They've already done the first part of that. So this is the lower half of the upper half of Ensign. Is my understanding that the City of Olympia has several strategies that they're trying to implement. One is purchasing the vehicle from the individuals living in it, and then offering again to put them up in hotels. I have made it clear that we are addressing the Deschutes encampment sweep right now. It's the largest camp. There were between 80 and 100 people living there at any given time. That's a huge number of individuals to suddenly just be dispersed throughout the county. So we are clearly asking the City of Olympia to continue supporting the folks that they've just displaced through their actions in the hotels as we fund them, and that we're focusing on Deschutes, where we do not intend to set a precedent. We just want to make sure that we have some kind of exit strategy for these folks so that they're just not dispersed.
That's all I got. Thank you.
Okay. So I have a question. I agree, this is a very well thought out plan. Really great job on this. And the fact that we're kind of below the limit of the 285 is even better, just in case of emergencies, or just in case something else comes up. It gives us a little bit of wiggle room. My question's about the hotel agreement. And what does that entail?
So currently, every person who's staying in the hotel over at the Super 8 has signed a hotel agreement with the City of Olympia, because they've been the ones that have been leasing those rooms up to this point. So what I understand are in that hotel agreement are, following all the hotel rules, no using illicit substances. I think they have a no guests, no visitor policy that they have to sign, that you have to let hotel staff in to change linens, to not cause damage to your room, and consequences that will lead to you being asked to leave. So I don't have that in front of me, but I did talk to Kim Condrat, the City of Olympia homeless coordinator, about the content of their agreement. So the one that the county uses is similar. And the one thing that we have that's slightly different is some allowance of some visitors, because isolation is not a great idea for people who have been living in community. And it can be really, we just want to reduce harm in whatever way we can. So, but at this point, they're still underneath City of Olympia's hotel agreement. And since the City of Olympia is continuing to support them, I will not be going into the hotels every day or the hotel every day. So they will maintain that agreement with City of Olympia.
Okay. County Manager?
So Commissioners, with your concurrence, I will ask for you to delegate authority to the county manager to sign all the pertinent documents to implement this plan.
Is that something you need a motion on from here or at our business meeting at 2? What do you
No,
have in
that's
mind?
what, I mean, you can delegate that authority because a lot of smaller documents that we need to sign, leases and everything, so that's what I ask you to consider that right now. Is this you,
Didn't we just give you authority to do something like that earlier in the
Yeah, no,
morning?
this has $1 a month, so I need that concurrence.
Okay. So thumbs up?
Hey, Tom, can you go out there and get rid of that junkyard that's starting out there on 101? Try to do something about that, will you? It's an eyesore. It just looks like hell. Could you try and get something cleaned up? You're not gonna be putting anybody out because it's just garbage laying there now. Or get DOT to go over there and clean it up. Solve a problem before it gets out of hand. Please?
I don't have a dump truck to clean that up, because I don't know, I can talk to Romero, see if there's another county department of transportation kind of responsibility for that.
Okay, well, I'm gonna try to go for this, but I sure wish we would put some way of identifying these folks from wherever they are, because there's only so much room in the lifeboat, and we're gonna run out of room one of these days.
So I have 3 thumbs up. Thank you, Commissioners. I appreciate your support on this plan.
Thank you.
Okay, great. Thank you so much, Keely and Tom. Okay, it's 12:29 and Commissioner Edwards, you said you had a commissioner item?
And I said it would be quick.
Okay.
And we didn't get a chance to talk about this, about as far as the response down to the Rochester area where there's the flooding, and those people are gonna need dumpsters, very similar to what we did down in the valley a couple of years ago. We lucked out in the valley this time around, compared to what we've had in the past. And so what's chances we could get something going to get down there and help those folks in, I guess, well, I don't know, I could leave, Ty could be the cheerleader on that, it's his district, so. I just wanna help them out somehow.
Yeah.
Can we do that? I mean, is that something we can pull off as part of this declaration of an emergency? I mean.
You're gonna be enacting on that declaration of emergency this afternoon.
Well, yeah, but you can lay some plans before this afternoon so you can implement, can't you?
Well, but we need to understand the magnitude of the problem, first of all. And then it's quality, we took a little while to understand the magnitude of the problem, to see if we need 1, 2, 3 containers, the location. So that's a tool available to us. And we're planning to implement that, but we need to understand the magnitude of the problem and where logistically can be that placed.
Okay, I just asked that we expedite it, because.
We certainly will, and that's certainly a tool in the toolbox for us. Yes.
Thank you very much.
So maybe we can get more of a conversation on Thursday and.
Tuesday, next Tuesday, with the snowstorm and everything.
Okay.
Tuesday.
Aren't we having a commissioner's check-in on Thursday?
Yeah, Thursday.
Maybe we'll know more about this on Tuesday, eh?
Long-term agriculture for Thursday.
Oh, no, I was talking about Commissioner Edwards.
About Ty's district.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm with you, Commissioner. But I understand, I had the same questions as county manager, like just to know where to deploy, what needs to be deployed where. And then once that's clear, I'll be in 100% support of making sure we do that as soon as possible. So I'll see what I can find out. And if we have new information by Thursday, let's talk about it Thursday.
But because there's other areas other than just Rochester. So we need to understand the magnitude of the problem. before we can embark on this.
I just want to make sure one thing. I don't want to get in trouble from a gender perspective. So I know some dads are out there having kids, you know, with them trying to take care of too. So I'm not saying only the moms, let's say parents. Okay. A lot of folks need a lot of help. I tried to be as quick as I could.
No, I agree. I mean, I've been seeing a lot of those flood videos.
Right, and the approach that I've taken in the past is be targeted, because the other option is to open the work for, you know, all the disposal then is unmanageable, because, you know, individuals will bring garbage not necessarily related to flooding.
I have a question in regards to the sandbags. Did those enough of those get deployed out?
We responded to every single request related to sandbags.
Okay.
So there was never a shortage of sandbags, put it that way.
I just follow up on your statement that others would take advantage of it if we open up or something. But sometimes in a real emergency, we just have to do what we have to do, kind of like the sandbags. I don't think we verified every one of those sandbags were going to prevent some flooding issue at somebody's home. One of them could have went on a basketball hoop to keep the wind from tipping it over in a parking area or something. I mean, so let's just realize we can't always get it 100%. We can sometimes err on the benefit of the citizens, because that's what we're trying to help here.
And I'm not saying we're not.
Okay.
Don't take me wrong.
I know you have your plate full, sir.
I'm not, please don't take my responses that I'm trying to resist that. That's not my intent.
I know.
Okay. Any other items, Commissioner Menzer?
No.
Okay, and so with that, we are adjourned. We will be back at 2 p.m. Thank you very much.